graveyard of fun. You bet all your chips on the long service spree, but the fans only ask for Bloodborne on PC. You whisper to Aloy, you'll lead us to gold, but all that we got was the same game result. Like your service dreams, oh they burned in the night, like a Discord server in a fanboy fight.
I'm vibing!
Spin, Herman, dance through the fire. You sold us the dream, now you're stuck in the mire. A light service graveyards, abandoned and cold, like a PS portal nobody holds. Towers of gas stations climbing so high, but no one can see through the cash grab disguise. Fair games, oh fair, what a terrible name. Stealing from the rich, Sony's playing that game. You said live service is future, just give me some time. But now you're demoted, oh what's a decline? Naughty Dog stranded, the last of us cursed. The only thing alive is your PR rehearsed. Spin, spin, Herman, your fate is unkind. Jorian has left you, now watch Sony blind. Your horizon obsession, your service collapse. Your legacy's buried in overpriced scraps. A decade you reigned, but the players withdrew. Aloy can't save you, she's also confused. The fans wanted Kratos, they wanted a thrill, but you chased dollar signs and swallowed the pill. Spin, spin, Herman, your tango is done. They stripped you of power, they fired the gun. The studios are tired, the players all fled. Your legacy lives, but only in red. Spin, spin, Herman, your tango is done. They stripped you of power, they fired the gun. The studios are tired, the players all fled. The legacy lives, but only in red.
Welcome, everybody. Shout out to Sean right off the bat. 10 gifted memberships on YouTube. That's insane. Thank you, my friend. That's crazy. Excuse me. I'm having trouble breathing because I made a mistake and worked out this morning. Classic mistake. What are you gonna do? Bro, that song slaps. Yeah, dude. Yeah. Spin, spin, Herman. It's good, man. I also love the idea of just Herman Hull spinning and dancing through the flames. It's good. It's good. Yeah, I went, we did an hour of, pretty much nonstop hit cardio. And so now I'm, yeah. And this is after the inhaler. Okay. So I'm a mess. What's your excuse for not working out? What is it? I'm over here dying. I still went. Wish I didn't, but yeah. Anyway, as long as I don't inhale fully, I'm fine, which is not typically what you want to hear, but there we are. Skip's leg day. Dude, that's why I feel so terrible, because this was like a lot of squats and then going on the treadmill. They wanted at minimum 10% whatever incline, or 10, I don't know what it is, like how many degrees it is, but it's steep. And then they wanted to push to 15, which is the max the treadmill will go in terms of height. And because it's all based around heart rate and you have the heart rate monitor on your arm, like they can see if you're not working hard enough. So then they get you to push it until your heart rate is in the ideal range. So there's no hiding. There's no like, oh no, I'm only going slow. Oh geez, this is easier for me. No, if your heart rate is not where it needs to be, they come and they pimp slap you until you figure out your crap. So yeah, I feel good. I'm glad we're doing this. My wife and I, we've been doing the workouts. We've been doing Orange Theory, and it kicks your butt. Tell you what, even I was talking to a family member recently who is a bodybuilder, like an IFBB pro bodybuilder, professional. And I mentioned Nikki and I had been trying Orange Theory, and she was like, yeah, Orange Theory's tough. And I was like, okay, if even a professional bodybuilder is like, yeah, those are tough workouts, then I feel better about feeling like I'm dying every single time. So I think I feel more reasonable now. Have you guys seen the videos of Tom Cruise? They released this little snippet of what he's doing for his new Mission Impossible movie. Dude, he's insane. He's absolutely insane. Look at this. Look at this. They just casually released this. Dude's like 60 years old, okay? What is that? What? It looks like he's hanging upside down. It's because he is. They are in a helicopter filming him hanging upside down from a helicopter. Of course, there's cables and stuff. You know, they're not going to let him actually free hang there. But that's him. Literally hanging upside down from a helicopter, riding through a mountain valley, doing his own stunt. Like, the power of Xenu is strong. I'll tell you what. I would never be a Scientologist, because it's like, that's one of those religions that we know that one's fake. Like, there's no maybe. No, we know the guy that made it, and he was crazy. So I'll never be a Scientologist. But when you see stuff like this, you're like, maybe there's something there, because that's insane. A normal person would never do that. But like, he's doing his own stunt like that. That's crazy. Isn't that insane? Wasn't a plane? Yeah, that's a plane. The other guys are also in a plane? I thought it looked like a helicopter from the cockpit. Because I don't know, this looked like the back of a helicopter. But yeah, you might be right. This might be also a plane. Can't really see when the camera pans. See, that kind of looks like a helicopter cockpit. I don't know. Either way, it's insane. Yeah, they're pretty high and they're going pretty fast for a helicopter, so I bet you're right. But still, man, that's insane. So, I mean, either way, I respect it. And to be like 60 plus years old and still doing this stuff, man, that's crazy. That's crazy. He's a Scientology god? Yeah, dude. How much money would it take for, I mean, this is the flip side. He's making probably 50, 60, 70 million dollars on this one movie. So if I was getting offered that, I'd do it too. I'd be like, no, you can throw me out of the plane. I don't care. Like, sure, whatever. I'll float down. I'll call upon a fairy godmother to give me a bubble parachute. I'll figure something out with $50 million. So either way, I mean, at that point, it's like, well, why don't more people just figure it out? You know, it makes every other movie star look like a loser in comparison, you know, because Tom is like, no, I'll do my own stunt. Yeah. Oh, we're swimming with sharks. Can I do a stunt where I'm like inside the shark and I do a whole Jonah thing? No. Oh, yeah. Okay. Let's do it. Like, no fear. He's just totally crazy. While his ex-wife is promoting a mobile game. Which one? Was it Nicole Kidman? Was that his ex-wife, or was that just, am I thinking of a movie where they were together? I don't keep up with celebrity gossip, man. I can't. Katie Holmes is promoting a mobile game. Really? That's funny. You know, the craziest thing was during like 2021. You remember, right out of COVID, every celebrity started pushing NFTs. Like, you had Tom Brady, Justin Bieber was pushing NFTs. You know, it was ridiculous. Straightens, I can't breathe. Straightens, thank you. Oh God, my lungs, they're giving up. Anyway, yeah, that was a crazy era when everybody was just super into NFTs because the bags were crazy. Anyway, again, shout out to Sean. Again, thank you, Sean, for 10 gifted memberships. We actually have a total overhaul of the membership stuff and Twitch subs and everything coming, because I mentioned to you guys that I wanted to do something to be more like connected and give back to members and subs and stuff. So it's not a thing yet. Don't expect it to be a thing tomorrow. Like, we're getting it set up. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to have a Discord that is exclusively for members of Luke Stevens Live and the Twitch channel. So if you're a sub or a member, you get access to the Discord. And in the Discord, we'll do things like game nights. If we're playing a game that has a community aspect, like clans or whatever, we'll make a clan or a tribe, whatever it is, that you can join if you're in the Discord. And we're also going to be doing things like you laugh, you lose challenges, where you guys, if you're in the Discord, can submit clips. And if you're the one that makes me laugh, you get a free game on Steam or on PlayStation or Xbox, whatever you want to play. Get 6 months of Game Pass, whatever we do. And we'll do things like that. So much more community oriented. That's the goal. We do have a Discord right now. There are some things with it I can't really talk about that may go back to the like, I can't be specific, but basically there were some security concerns, let's just say, that are tied to that. So we're going to be doing kind of like an overall overhaul of the whole thing. Free 5090, if anybody can find a way to demonstrate they exist, because as far as I know, like, the only actual like 5090 I saw was one that Jay's 2 cents, I think it was, gave away and signed, and the guy that got it and won it immediately flipped it on eBay. Like, immediately. Treble says you have a... Where did you get it? Micro Center? I don't know, man. At my Micro Center in Denver, because I was thinking, oh, we could do like an IRL stream and we could travel down to Denver and go and try to get one. But they're all sold out. Like, they don't have any. And normally Micro Center has a lot, because their whole thing is that they don't do like shipping to you. You have to come into the store to pick it up. So if you're going to try to scalp them, you can't, because you have to drive to the store. They only give you one, and that's it. And then their whole database, every Micro Center in the country knows that you're a problem child, and they're not going to sell you another one. So they have a better handling on it. But I heard through the grapevine that there were like 2 in the entire state of Colorado at that Micro Center, which is insane. I can't personally attest to that because I heard it through, hearsay, whatever. But it goes with what I would expect to be real, based on the paper launch stuff we've seen. So who knows? There's some local stores where I live that have 5090 pre-built. That's the thing. I remember with the 40 series, it was cheaper to buy a pre-built that had a 4080 in it or a 4090 in it than to buy a scalped 4090. So it was literally cheaper to go to like iBuyPower or Apex Gaming or any of those PC builders, buy a PC from them, take out the 4070 or 4090 rather, and then just sell all the other components on Craigslist or whatever, Facebook Marketplace, and keep the 4090. That was cheaper than just ordering the card, which is ridiculous. But it seems like it's going to be the same thing again. Yeah. Comfy, I was watching this small documentary about GTA 6's community going insane and noticed you were in the intro. Oh, like one of our reactions to how insane it was. We've had some like pretty viral TikToks and clips and stuff about that very topic. It's kind of crazy, but yeah, we've run into some problems with that. Yeah, like this one, 6.8 million
Degrees
views.
below is now a member. Hey Luke, playing through HZDFB on PC with mods to get rid of crafting and it's more bearable. Any other games you think are too bloated for their own good?
Yeah, if you hadn't said Horizon Forbidden West, I would have said Horizon Forbidden West. Because, yeah, that game, Horizon in general is really bloated. My buddy loves Horizon. I'm not talking about Jor right now. He's a college buddy. And I think I mentioned it in the critique. But he loves Horizon. But even he, when he wants a new armor set, he changes the difficulty all the way down to very easy or story, whatever it's called, because that guarantees every drop for everything. And so instead of having to hunt like 15 Thunder Jaws to get the one thing you need for this armor set, he just turns it to very easy, kills the thing, gets the crafting component he needs, and goes back. And I think part of the problem is that the game was balanced, assuming that a lot of players would do that. So it's really, really, really grindy, but it's not like fun grindy like Monster Hunter. Like Monster Hunter, you're going to grind. Like I remember grinding for the Odageron armor set because it worked with my like high crit build that I was going for, really high aggression build. And I like it's built around that component. So it's expected that, yeah, there's going to be dynamics. You're going to be fighting this monster many times. But that's part of the gameplay loop. With Horizon, it never really felt balanced. It always felt like, here we go again. Because then all of your arrows require other things that you have to grind for and go collect wood for. And then you got to grind the arrows if you have enough of a... And it was really needlessly complicated. So that's definitely accurate. As for what other ones I would look at, I think... What's another game that's too grindy for its own good? I mean, I could say something like Starfield, but Starfield doesn't really mandate grind. You can finish Starfield relatively quickly without grinding. The grinding is kind of available to you if you want. But I would say that game's too bloated for its own good. You know, they, in that interview with Todd Howard, where he's like, when I play a space game, I want everything to be, I want the game to constantly say yes to me. If I explore this area, I want it to say, yes, you can. If I want to land on the planet anywhere, I want it to say yes to the player. You can land anywhere, even though that maybe not, like that might not be the best choice for the game overall. I'd say Valhalla.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
That's another game that, for the time, coming out of like in COVID and everything, it was perhaps the best type of game that Ubisoft could have hoped for, because it was massive. It got people to spend a lot of money on cosmetics because it took them like 100 hours to finish. So for the time, maybe it was great, but especially in hindsight, I'm like, that game is too big, dude. And then it was also like, it was built in a way where they were clearly like trying to get everybody super like, it felt like it was designed for people with low attention spans, because max level is, I forget what max level is, but it's like you get into the 300s level wise. And every time you level up, you know, you get a handful of points, and it got so tedious that they just put a button in the center of the skill bush that's just auto apply. So you just hit A and then it auto applies points based on what it thinks you want, because the upgrades were of such minimal significance that they were like, players don't even need to pick it themselves or know what they're picking. We'll just do it for them. And at that point, I'm like, what's the point of an RPG or a skill tree, skill bush, whatever, if it's so inconsequential, the player doesn't even need to know what they're upgrading? Like, that doesn't even make sense. So, yeah. Yeah, you get 2 skill points a level. Yes. Yeah. So you get 2 skill points a level, and then you apply those to the skill bush. And after however many hours, you might just be like, this is a lot. I don't know if I care that much or if it matters that much. So you just auto apply. But yeah, we've got stuff to talk about. We're going to talk about today. Warner Brothers, shocker, big dumb stupid heads are making big dumb stupid head decisions. GTA 6. They talked about it at the earnings call. They sure did. Some grifters who don't understand much of anything, are claiming that Embracer's stock drop is a sign that going woke goes broke or something. And I'm going to show you why they have no idea what they're talking about. Because you read for 30 seconds anything about the stock drop and you'll know what's going on, and you're going to, oh, okay. It's literally the opposite of what they're trying to make it out to be. So anyway, also Iron Galaxy is in a last resort life-saving move. They're trying to save their company. We'll talk about who these guys are and why this is interesting, because they're actually working on one of PlayStation's bigger releases for the next couple months. A PC port of The Last of Us Part 2. And they also worked on PlayStation's worst reviewed PC port. And prior to that, they also were responsible for a PC port of another big game in 2015, a PC port that was so bad it resulted in massive stock drops, and it really did damage to a very otherwise impressive game's reputation. So we'll talk about that. There's all sorts of stuff. And if we have time left over, I want to talk about Fable Legends, because this was a bizarre thing. So here we go. Are you ready? Are you ready? I'm sorry, we had a random drop in the stream. I don't know what it was. It's not through OBS, so it seems to be a restream issue, just as a heads up. It's not you, it's the servers. Okay, let me catch up on these real quick. I don't know why my alerts and stuff aren't making noise. I'm not sure. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Let's see. Any tips on how not to suck at KCD 2? Happy Friday.
Remember, love you, Lukey Poo.
I love you too.
For my 14 months, I want you to learn how to backflip. By my 16 months, I want you to have it down.
I'm not ISO speed, man. I can't do it. I can't do it. I'll practice it. I'll go do that. Instead of working out, I'll just work on backflips. Maybe I can work up to it. I'll work on it. Tips on how not to suck at KCD2. Go to the skill, I forgot what they call them, like skill something, skill teachers, skill, whatever the term is. But they show up on the map as like little books. And there are people and NPCs in the game that can teach you skills and help you with stuff. And you go and you can learn new stuff from them. Learn new stuff for combat. Go to the people you'll meet. One guy well, you meet a few guys actually that specifically help you with combat, with like swords, axes, that type of thing. Go talk to those guys, improve your stealth, go to the scribes, like do all that stuff. Look for books, buy books and read the books. You sit down on just a chair, you open up the book, spend 6 hours reading the book, and then you close it, you improve your skills, do all that stuff. You just have to go and take you have to take your time and grow and improve. It's an active thing. KCD is one of those interesting games where there are some aspects which are just like skill-based, get good, bro. And then there's other things that specifically unlock once you've been trained, once Henry's been trained in those. So go and check that out. I think that's a big piece of it. Let's see. Enemies are really good at blocking. Yeah, that's why you got to learn the perfect parry stuff, or the perfect strikes. That will make your life so much easier, because they'll go like this, and then you go to the other side, and right as they go to attack, you attack, and it parries and stabs them in the throat, and then their stamina drops. Also, don't underestimate the power. I forget the name of the poison, but there's a poison you can brew and buy that decreases enemy stamina once they get hit with it. And that will make any fight a joke. Just saying. Because then they can't hold or defend because their stamina runs out faster. So look into poisons and stuff. That's a big help for sure. Use the tools they give you. Use the tools. So are you overall enjoying KCD? Oh, as I said in my review, it's one of my favorite games of all time. It's freaking fantastic and I love it. Where else was I? Okay, I lost my place. Degrees Below, thank you for the 2 months membership. Oh yeah, that was the question about Horizon Zero Dawn. Yeah, AC Valhalla is always a good answer for what games are too bloated. Strawberry, thank you for the 2. Does KCD2 critic/commercial success pressure BGS? I don't think it pressures them, but I do think it once again raises the bar for RPGs. BGS has always been kind of lucky because their games are not typically considered RPGs. They're kind of sandbox open world games, so they're kind of a different animal. But the problem is that Todd tends to try to brand them as RPGs when they're just not. They're just not. Like, they don't meet that standard as well, which is why I think it's a mistake to frame it that way. We'll see. If they try to market Elder Scrolls 6 as a big, ambitious, crazy, deep RPG, then they introduce themselves into the like competition of Baldur's Gate 3, of KCD 2. Like, then they're putting themselves against those guys, and that bar is mighty high. But if they're like, I mean, we have RPG elements, but this is fundamentally a sandbox adventure game, that's a different box that I think they can do much better in. So I think a lot of it's going to be about how they frame it. But as of right now, we don't really know how they're framing it. So it might pressure them. But as of right now, I mean, I think if they frame it and advertise it properly and with restraint and humility, they might not end up in that much trouble. But good question. JL, thank you for the 5. I'm working out right now. I feel your pain, literally. What's the name of that depressing feeling you get when you finish a good game? Last time you had it? I don't know if it was depression, but when I finished KCD 2, I was kind of like, well, what now? You know, that feeling where you're like, I wish I could wipe my brain of that and re-experience it from the start. It's that kind of feeling where you're like, what do we do now? You know, because I want to go back through it, but I also feel like I should give it a little space. You know, what's the meme? We should hold space for it. Because I've been holding space for Kingdom Come for a while. But prior to that, I mean, it's happened with a number of other games. It's happened with like Elden Ring. I remember when I finished Elden Ring, I was like, what now? You know, it's happened with Red Dead 2, The Witcher 3, games like that. Those big, ambitious, like crazy games that you commit a lot of time to. It's happened with Metaphor, Refantasio. I got to the like, no spoilers. I got to a spot where I knew the game was like about to wrap up. And I like couldn't bring myself to do it. I was like, I'm going to do something else. Cause I didn't want it to end, you know, like I didn't want it to end. Back Queen, the camera I'm using is a Sony FX30. I don't have a command for it, but the camera I'm using is a Sony FX30. The Sony FX3 is the full frame sensor version of this that is extremely expensive and frankly overkill for streaming. I mean, if you're in a really dark room, it could be helpful, but if you have bigger lights and stuff, just do the FX30. It's like a third of the price and it'll get the same job done. The like thing you have to remember is smaller sensor, you need more light. So if you get the cheaper one with the smaller sensor, just invest in bigger and brighter lights. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Let's see. Yeah, same with RDR2. You want to stay in chapter 2 because you know how the rest of the story goes. Yeah. Like, no, Arthur, you'll be fine. No, don't go to that guy who's sick, who's gonna cough on you. Don't. Let's see. Sumaya, thank you for the super chat. Yakuza 7 LAD is very grindy for finishing post-game true final Millennium Tower dungeon. It's like 3-hour dungeon, which needs all characters near level 99. Yeah, those like true ending things have always kind of driven me crazy. I know some people love them, but like the worst example is what Shadow of War did, where it was like the true ending is locked behind holding up all of your bases for however long, and you need all legendary orcs and all this, because it was built to get you to like go and spend money on orcs through the loot boxes. And it was way too grindy without that. But €2 for Jacob Stevens, the GOAT editor brother. Indeed. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you. I'll Venmo Jacob directly. Okay. Speaking of Shadow of War, that leads us perfectly into this segment, right? That leads us perfectly. Couldn't have planned that better myself. Didn't even mean to. Okay. News. So, just earlier in the stream, we were talking about Shadow of War and how the end game was so crazy grindy because it was built for you spending money through loot boxes that it almost destroyed the game. And then later they stripped the loot boxes out, but it's still kind of grindy and feels kind of weird. But either way, it's still a solid game. Well, that studio is a team called Monolith. Shadow of War released in 2017, okay? Have you guys played their recent game? No, you haven't, because they haven't released anything since then. They've been working on a Wonder Woman game ever since 2017. And what's interesting is 2017 was a weird era. And it's always funny to me when everybody's like, oh, we're entering the gaming crash, the industry's crashing, blah, blah, blah. Like everybody always says that, but they conveniently forget like all of the other crazy things that have happened in years past that were just as bad, if not worse at the time, like for the context of where they were. Because 2017 was such an insane year. We had two colossal flops that not just did damage to the studio and the brand and all of that, but they also did damage into the mainstream stock and reputation of the companies. The two examples in this case were, of course, Warner Brothers with Shadow of War and the loot boxes that they did there that we'll touch on more in a second, and Battlefront 2. Battlefront 2 had these things called star cards, which was how you leveled up your characters in the game. And so it was like literally pay to win. If you spend more money on star cards, which were sold through these star card packs, just loot boxes, you could have a significantly better character than everybody else who didn't pay money. And it was in like a competitive FPS, or I guess at times third person shooter, whatever. You know what I mean? And it got so bad, I believe it was the government of Belgium. They investigated them. The EU started investigating EA as a result of this. And this started to reflect very poorly on Disney, because Disney has a certain reputation and brand to uphold, despite the fact that they're kind of like the definition of a soulless corporation. They have a reputation to uphold that they're not that. They have to keep those Disney adults thinking that they actually do care. And so Disney got really upset. In fact, there was a story about how Disney reached out directly to the CEO of EA, a guy that still is in control, Andrew Wilson, and basically slapped him upside the back of the head and said, stop this. This is looking really bad on us. There's talks of government investigations on all that. Like, what are we doing? Funny side note. Do you know who was specifically rumored to potentially take over a very powerful and significant company? Yeah, the same guy, Andrew Wilson. A story just late last year that Andrew Wilson was being eyed to replace Bob Iger as CEO of Disney. Interesting, right? So it all comes full circle, man. It all comes full circle. So even though they were very upset with him back in 2017 for how bad it made them look, they took the loot boxes out of both Shadow of War and Battlefront. The star cards remained, but they remain like motivated by gameplay or something. But if you had already bought them, you still were way ahead of everybody. It was a mess. It was a mess. But it was so bad that it was not just concentrated in the gaming sphere. It also spread out into the mainstream. People on like MSNBC and Bloomberg Financial News were talking about loot boxes and loot crates and how they could be investigated and banned in all of gaming, because this is the other important piece. The second investigators and specifically regulators get involved with the gaming industry, these guys know their loot boxes, all those like gotcha mechanics, those do not stand a very good chance at staying around. And that represents billions of dollars a year, okay? So they don't even really care that much about Battlefront 2 or Shadow of War's loot boxes and loot crates. What they care about is the loot boxes and loot crates elsewhere that print money for them, which is why they couldn't stand the idea of government regulators getting involved, which is why immediately Disney was like, shut it down, EA, shut it down, because if the regulator comes in and says, no more loot boxes, full stop, period, then they're screwed. Like you would see EA go bankrupt, no joke, because that's all of like the FC games, Madden, all of that is built around those monetization mechanics and, or surprise mechanics, as they say. And so they could not afford to let that happen, which is why the second there were rumblings of regulator interference, they immediately started playing nice, right? But 2017, crazy year. And after the blowback that came with the loot boxes in Battlefront and in Shadow of War, because Shadow of War was built in a way where you would get about 30, 40 hours into the game, and then you were at the end game. But in order to reach the true ending of the game, you had to have all these legendary grade orcs, and those legendary orcs could be bought with real money. And it was, people did math, and it would take like hundreds, if not thousands of hours to grind for legendary orcs, or you could spend $1,200 or whatever it was in order to just buy your way there. It was egregious, and they knew what they were doing. The entire game was built around pushing you into spending money that way, even though it was a single player game. And it was a really gross and disappointing abuse of the Nemesis system, which was a brilliant gameplay mechanic and system that they, of course, patented so other studios couldn't use it. But it's just a tale of greed and a game that was built around that excessive monetization, which I remember back in 2017, it was a hot button issue, and it still is a hot button issue even now, because if you want to monetize your game, people are not, I don't think people are not inherently against that. Like if you have an amazing game and then you sell a DLC for it, that's fine. The problem is if your game suffers as a result of your pursuit to monetize it greedily, at that point, like, you shouldn't be surprised when people don't like the game, because your monetization interfered with the quality of it, which it certainly did in these cases. But all of this builds us to the titular topic for today, which is the Warner Brothers video game division has been facing significant issues. This is a report from Jason Schreier over at Bloomberg. Insert joke about Jason Schreier here. I know some people hate him, but either way, we're going to talk about it because he has sources in here. In January, Warner Brothers Discovery revealed that David Haddad, head of the struggling video game division, would be stepping down. To some who work closely with the veteran executive, the news didn't come as a surprise. Their only question was why it had taken so long. Warner Brothers Games had just suffered through a dismal year marked by a $200 million write-down in May on a painful flop, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, followed a few months later by a $100 million write-down due to the failures of Harry Potter Quidditch Champions and the fighting game Multiverses. Funnily enough, Quidditch Champions is pretty much the sole reason why there is not Quidditch in Hogwarts Legacy. You remember you're playing through it and they're like, what was the excuse? They were like, oh, the Quidditch pit is down for repairs, or the team is traveling. What was the excuse? Do you guys remember? I just remember rolling my eyes when I heard it because it was a Quidditch injury. Is that really what it was? An injury on the pitch. It was like hilariously contrived, but it was because they had this other game in the works, and they, like, the executive said, no, if you have Quidditch in Hogwarts Legacy, why would you need to play our live service version of it? You wouldn't. That could interfere with it. So no. But Quidditch Champions has, I mean, this is not a big surprise. It's not exactly a Rocket League. And it's not a Rocket League, not because like the devs didn't do a fine job, which from what I can tell, they did a fine job. It's just that Quidditch is a game invented by a woman who doesn't know anything about sports or what makes a good sport. And so it makes no sense at all. And it's not like, it can look cool in a movie, I guess, or in a book form. But when you actually break it down and try to turn it into a competitive sport, it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't work that well. And that's, I mean, it just doesn't work. And multiverses, I mean, what else can you say that hasn't been said? It's just, it's a mess. It's a mess. Okay. They've spent so much money, so much time trying to turn that into a thing, and it's just not. It's just not. But as you can see, Warner Brothers Chief Executive Officer David Zaslav has told investors in November that the company's video game business was substantially underperforming its potential. I would agree, but not for the reason he thinks. Okay, not for the reason he thinks. With access to a bounty of popular entertainment franchises like Batman, Lord of the Rings, and Game of Thrones, Warner Brothers' video game division should be able to compete with industry titans such as Take-Two Interactive and EA. The unit employs more than 2,000 people across a dozen subsidiaries with offices across the world. The problem is, and I'm sure he's going to get to it, they have this belief that because they have these big IP, they should be able to turn all of it into live service successes that print money, like mobile games and things like that, which they probably can. They probably can get there eventually, but I just don't think they know what players actually want. You know, and Suicide Squad is a prime example of that. And Quidditch Champions is a prime example of that. You know, these are all things, if you asked your typical gamer, does this concept make sense? They would tell you, no. If they had hired me to come in and look at these projects 5 years ago, I would have been like, no. You're doing what with the Rocksteady devs? What? Are you insane? We all would have said that because an actual like gamer can identify a flop very, very quickly. But these executives, again, the story of the PS5 era really has been executives thinking you can have a successful studio that's successful at single player games, make a live service game that will be just as successful. They don't understand that they're different talents, that the audiences are different. The assumption has just been that it's all the same. And that's just not true. Naughty Dog, really good at single player games, whether you love them or hate them. I mean, they're clearly critically acclaimed. But Naughty Dog doesn't make live service games. And their fans don't want a live service game. Rocksteady, they made an amazing trilogy of Arkham games. None of their fans want a looter shooter. None of the devs are like equipped to make a live service looter shooter. But the executives think, no, you made a game of the year last year. Just make a game of the year looter shooter. That makes us tons of money. They just don't understand because a lot of these executives did not start in the gaming field. They started in the business field, you know, on the flip side, managing spreadsheets and stuff. And so they just don't know what they're talking about. They just don't, you know, it's a different animal. It's like that old story of, was it Jeffrey Katzenberger when he came in? Was it him? I forget who. It was one of the Disney execs in like the 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And he came in and looked over, I think it was the Black Cauldron, whatever movie. And the edit of the movie, like the movie was kind of scary. It was pretty dark and like not that child friendly. And he thought it was totally inappropriate. He thought it was a total disaster. And so he just said, just re-edit it. cut this scene and maybe extend this scene with some extra footage you have. And they're like, sir, it's an animated movie. Like, we'd have to go draw and do stuff. Katzenberg, did I say Katzenberger? No, I was close, off by a few letters. But it's because he came from TV. And with a TV background, his understanding was like, oh, you just have extra footage and deleted scenes, and some scenes are longer. He's like, just re-edit it. But you can't do that in an animated movie when everything is drawn and animated. Like, it just doesn't work. We animate what we need to, not a bunch of extra stuff. Like, what are you talking about? And that's the same kind of thing going on here, is that it's people that don't understand the medium in which they're working, trying to tell people who work in that medium what to do. And it just doesn't make sense. I'm not a construction guy. I said construction guy. That should tell you everything you need to know. I don't work in construction. If you ask me to like frame a new room or to pour a concrete foundation, I would have no idea what I'm doing. I don't work in that field. I don't know what I'm doing. But if you then promoted me to be in charge of the people doing that work, it also wouldn't really make sense, because if I'm like, just pour the concrete faster, use a little bit less so we save money, you'd be like, what the hell are you talking about, man? Like, you know, you'd be freaking out because it doesn't make any sense. My babe is here. Hello, babe. You got your coffee? It always amazes me how quickly you can drink those. Yeah, dry the concrete faster. Exactly. Exactly. You'd be like, what the hell are you talking about, sir? But anyway, like that, it's just the age-old problem with all of this is you end up with these bigwig execs that have no idea what they're talking about, that try to dictate what everybody else should do. And of course, it just doesn't translate. We'll continue on with this in a moment. How are you, babe?
I'm a babe.
You're a babe. Indeed. Indeed. Are you able to breathe? I can't.
Oh, I can breathe great.
I can't breathe fully. I can't take a deep, full breath. Otherwise, I hack.
You hack?
I hack.
I would like an example, please.
No.
Very well.
Yeah. And a handsome woman enters. I told them that my grandpa always calls people like who are very beautiful. He's like, that's a handsome woman. Yeah. That's a handsome woman. Did Luke get himself sick? No, I worked out. Even worse.
I convinced him to start taking a workout class with me on Fridays.
Yeah, it's been very good. It's been very good, but man, I have whatever it's called, the exercise induced asthma stuff. So every time we do a lot of exercise, I just start to drown, you know?
No, most people can breathe air.
Well, I just thought, someone's at the door. I just always thought that it was normal when you worked out to not be able to breathe. Like, I just thought that's how exercise was. And then it was only later that I learned, no, most people can breathe after working out and not wheeze and die. But yeah.
Yeah, most people are average and they can do that.
Yeah.
You're just strange.
I can't. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's the same thing. I always thought that when you read a book, you just got a splitting migraine after like 30 minutes. I thought that was just reading. I was like, that's why people don't like reading, right? Nope. Turns out I need glasses. I have it too. Got to get an inhaler. Yeah, dude, for real. Yeah, I need it. Convenient exclusives, Luke. Yeah. Excuse me. So Luke is below average in some ways. Yes.
Sorry.
In all ways.
No.
Bust out the Wii Sports, Luke. Dude, Wii Sports boxing. I used to go hard with that. Do you guys remember, like, for me, it was always my sister. My sister understood that it was a rhythm thing. Like, it wasn't about swinging hard. It was about a steady rhythm. And that's how you would win. But I thought it was like speed and force. So I would like really swing with those punches in Wii boxing. And it did not. Like, it doesn't work that way.
I remember being 11 and thinking that doing this and pumping the arms and stepping up on the board was like gonna make me so freaking fit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have abs.
Yeah.
By the time I'm 12, man.
I do remember that era where everybody's aunt and grandma had a Wii Fit app and a Wii Fit board and stuff, and they would do like that workout routine and think that they were getting swole. Dude logic, punch big. Yeah. I was always frustrated because I was like, my punches would hit way harder than yours, and yet you keep knocking me out. You know, it's a lot. Yeah. You ever break a TV doing that? No. I was always super anal about the wrist straps. Like I was always very, very on the nose with that. But I had a friend who cracked it. It didn't like fully break it because he got like the corner of it. But yeah, it wasn't boxing. I think he said it was tennis. Like he swung and then the controller just went and hit the corner of it. Yeah, DF Dante, it's even better than normal. Yeah. My best friend's mom and wife tried beating my 3-point shootout score for years, but didn't because they're chumps. Dude, they tried to bring back, it was like Nintendo Sports or Switch Sports or something. It just didn't hit the same way. Wii Golf, dude, we used to play so much Wii Golf. Wii Bowling was goated, though. Wii Bowling was goated. I think that might be one of the most successful games of all time because it came with the Wii. It sold something insane, like 200 million copies or something. Man, those were the days. Yeah. Sorry, I got distracted. Nikki, what are you playing right now?
I'm not proud of it. I went back to Pal World for a little bit.
No, they got an expansion.
Yeah.
Pal World player numbers are still really good.
Restarted Pal World.
Yeah. You're telling me you didn't go back and do another playthrough of Veilguard?
I tried. I did try. I was like, maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe I'm being too critical. And I got through the tutorial and I was like, no, I hate it.
Yeah, it's just,
I got mad.
I mean, we just talked about it yesterday on stream too, or the 2 days ago, because if you go to the game's credits, like literally every single person on the writing team listed there, they're all gone. Like they got rid of everybody. It's crazy. No KCD2, Nikki, I explained how much I loved it and everything, and she's upset you can't play as a girl.
I'm so excited. Here's the deal, though. I love immersive games. Witcher 3, I could get immersed in Witcher 3, and you're not playing Ciri to begin with in The Witcher 3. So, like, I can play male characters. However, in the tutorial, in this very first part, like, you're in a little river, and you're looking to try and see some naked ladies, and I'm like, I'm out. This isn't for me. It's
You gotta
not for
keep
me.
playing.
I know. I know. I also couldn't figure out how to unsheath my sword for like 30 minutes.
That's why I said, I was like, I will sit next to you and I will walk you through like all those little tips and tricks, maybe the things that aren't super clear.
I should have played on controller. I was playing on PC and I don't know.
I prefer PC mouse and keyboard because I like being able to just quickly tap J for journal and I for inventory, M for map. Like I like having the quick options. Especially later in the game, it's once you get like 4 inventory slots and you're carrying a sword and then maybe like a sword and shield, and then you're carrying a crossbow and a pistol, you know, once you get there, it's nice to have the extra buttons. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them went and they're working at like Sucker Punch on Ghost of Yotei. There's a few others that are working at Mysterious Studios we don't really know anything about. So who knows? Who knows what's happening? But a lot of them left like a year or two ago. So they got hired before it was clear that Dragon Age Veilguard's writing was a huge problem. So like something Woods, Courtney Woods maybe? She left and was like a really high level writer on Veilguard. But she got hired, I think 2022, 2023, something like that. And so she moved before Veilguard's reception and everything. So her influence on Ghost of Yotei is already solidified, which worries me a little bit. Because I'm like, I swear to God, if we play Ghost of Yotei and it's like, okay, we need to go fight this guy in the castle. But first, we have this great new song. It's called Kumbaya. And we all sit in a circle everybody gets a drum. We start doing the drum circle. And then we do a massage train where everybody turns and massages the person in front of them. And then everybody goes around and then confesses to a trauma they felt when they were a child. And then everybody else repeats it and says, "You are valid." And then we just go around the circle.
But we're not going to use real drums because Timothy's drum.
Yeah, Timmy's mom was killed by a drum. And
So we're going to be really respectful of Timmy.
and Janice, she thinks one of the drums looks vaguely like an animal that at one time made her feel bad. So you know what? We're just not doing
We're going to
anything.
eliminate that energy. We don't need that.
Yeah. So if they do that, I won't like it. I'll be upset. Hold on, the massage train might work. Yeah, dude. It's I know for a fact I was speaking to somebody that's like fairly high up at a large publisher, and they said, in light of Forspoken, Saints Row, and what was the other one? Concord. They said in light of all of that, all these studios, like they're doing reviews of the writing for unannounced projects. They're like trying to bring people in early, like regular gamers early to get feedback. There's a big panic within a lot of these big corporations where they're like, okay, the writers might be out of touch, so let's bring in gamers to get feedback. And I mean, I think that's great. I think that like every studio should do that, because that's the thing. Like a lot of these writers, the story with Forspoken was that they had all this cringy dialogue and they were genuinely shocked when people hated it. And I think it was the same with Veilguard. I think like they were genuinely shocked that people don't talk that way. A dragon just ate my mom. Well, as long as we're here together, that's all that matters. No, it's not. My mom is dead. A dragon ate her. Yeah, but we have each other, and friendship is all that really matters. No, it's not. My mother mattered too. Well, okay. Like it just, oh my God, drives me crazy. Oh. Tunnel vision. I mean, it's as with anything, when you work for something on like for 4 years and nobody else sees it, you get like the visors up, you know, because you're just so entrenched in what you're doing. And it happens with even smaller stuff. I remember in school, you know, you write a paper for a class, and after you've worked on it for a week or whatever, and then you let somebody proofread it and they start pointing out problems with it that you just got tunnel vision, you didn't see, because you got used to it and you were too close to the paper to realize like the broader picture problems. And I think that happens with gaming. I think that happens with writing. It's a common problem. The real issue though is I think you hear the stories at like Concord, the development cycle there, where nobody wanted to critique anything at all. So even if you didn't like character designs, even if you didn't like this or that, you couldn't say anything because everybody knew the boss loved it. It was Herman's baby. Nobody wanted to be the person that stands up and is rocking the boat, because then you're a hater, and we can't have that. God forbid somebody provides critical feedback. Oh, are there new devs on Ghost of Yotei? I mean, yeah, they've hired a lot. The team is bigger, a lot bigger than it was for Ghost of Tsushima. So I'm sure there's a lot of newer, great talent. There's probably also some people in there that I probably wouldn't have hired or put on it, but who knows? We'll see. The visuals did a lot of the heavy lifting in Veilguard, though I did not like the character designs. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that's really sad about it, is they had a lot of stuff going for it. They had a lot of they had a lot of potential.
That
but
Act 1 finale? Are you kidding?
Well, that's the thing. And that
cool.
That Act 1 finale we saw at the preview, and we were told there was a lot more. Like they said word for word, there's a lot more like that in the final game. And there's not. There just isn't. That was like, they showed us the coolest thing at the preview event, and then they said there's a lot more like that. So if what they're saying is true, yeah, that game could have been really, really cool. They just didn't say that actually the last half of the game is a friendship simulator with like kind of lackluster, boring missions. And it's like, oh. Don't you think Tsushima is quite repetitive? Yeah, I do think people forget, Valerio, that Ghost of Tsushima is basically just Far Cry with swords. And it's like, people love Far Cry, people love Ghost of Tsushima. That formula absolutely works. But it does certainly get repetitive, for sure. That's why I think after the campaign ends, I don't blame people if they fall off of it and don't do like a completionist run. I think that game really relies on the narrative motivating you. Yeah, they backloaded all the side quests and it was terrible. Yeah, I mean, they just kind of blew their load early, which I don't blame them. Like, you want the first handful of hours to be really exciting, but then it just made it so, like, okay, there's these elder gods we got to be really careful of. And then just boring friendship. Like, friends are fine. But when the world is ending, maybe it's not the time to sit around drinking coffee. Like, maybe later.
Sorry, the romances. The Lucanus romance. You're like, oh, we're going to be together forever. And he's like, here you go. I made you a cup of coffee. That is my commitment. You're like, ah, yeah, paella and coffee. Which, why does paella exist in Dragon Age? What?
Well, and also, like, the romances were just so weird. And it was kind of like HR was in the room, like Skillip said. But it was like, I would hate to see what kind of person thinks that was like a steamy romance scene. You know? I think at the preview event, somebody asked, are there steamy romances in that? Because we didn't see anything like that in the previews.
Because that is what I'm here for.
And they were like, oh yeah, there's everything you'd come to expect. No! It was everything we didn't expect.
Mad.
Like, oh my God.
So mad.
It was terrible. Dreadful. Concord's director of marketing joined BioWare. Was it BioWare or was it... I thought it was another team, maybe. Yeah, I mean, I there's a lot of shakeups, but the thing to remember is a lot of these people at these companies, they all just kind of shuffle around. So somebody will work at Ubisoft, go work at EA, go work over, here, work there, come back to Ubisoft, go back to EA. And then it's just, that's how corporate stuff works now. If you want to climb the ladder, you can't really climb the ladder easily at your company. You just have to climb the ladder bouncing and zigzagging your way up. Yeah. Danny, think of the two. Clearly a disconnect between writers and gamer. Yeah, and it's like I said in the recent video where I was like, clearly they didn't know what gamers wanted. Because if they did, they would have given it to them. Or the flip side is that they knew what gamers wanted out of Veilguard and they chose not to give it to them. And instead do this thing. Which I think is worse. So either they're incompetent or they have contempt for gamers. And neither one is good. Either way, they shouldn't have that job, right? Gavin, thank you for that one. Luke, head writers brought on to work on Yote, their track record and Andromeda Anthem Veilguard has been enough. Has been enough for this to be okayed. How and why? So the thing we talked about that a minute ago, it's Woods. I think Courtney Woods, but she was the one that those articles were written about. She moved to Sucker Punch in like 2022, 2023. So she's been there for a while, and she was there before Dragon Age Veilguard was even revealed. So she went and I'm sure applied to Sucker Punch and was like, hey, yeah, I've worked on Mass Effect and Dragon Age, even an unannounced big reboot of Dragon Age. It's super awesome. And I'm sure that carried a lot of weight in the interviews, but it was just, in hindsight, worrisome. But at the moment, that they were doing it, maybe it made sense. Am I planning to play Monster Hunter Wilds? Is the sun shining? Is the sky blue? Is the ocean kind of scary? Yes. Yes. Yeah, Monster Hunter, I'm sure it's going to be crazy cool. How do bad writers keep getting these gigs? I do not understand. I think writing in video games is not as easy as you may think. And it also, I don't know. I think the people that are making the decisions to hire the writers are basing it off of like a short story they wrote or a novel they wrote or other games they've worked on and stuff. And there's this weird like tug of war between writers and the industry at large, because you're not writing a game for today. You're writing a game, or you should be writing a game for 4 or 5 years from now. And in some ways, Dragon Age Veilguard feels like a game that was written for a 2020 environment, cultural environment. And in 2024, 2025, it just feels horribly out of place. Same with Concord. I mean, Concord back in 2017, sure, maybe that would have done fine. But nowadays it just doesn't. So like the writing, the world building, the concept art, all of that needs to be prepared in anticipation. But that's kind of my point, is that I don't think you can predict where the world is going to be. So maybe just focus on something that's really cool instead of trying to pander and create something that you think people will connect with. Just make something cool and badass. You know, show them something they haven't seen before that they love, like Expedition 33 that looks freaking badass, looks nothing like anything I've ever seen before, but I want it. Not because it fit in the perfect cultural sliver, like, but just because it looks awesome. Yeah. Witcher 4 news? What Witcher 4 news? Is there Witcher 4 news? I don't know. Do you need a chair? Do you need a...
No,
We need a beanbag chair. I've decided. One of those big ones.
You got cats.
Yeah,
It's
they're
gonna
not
get-
allowed in the
it's gonna get
studio
peed
because
on.
they chew wires.
They do chew wires.
Oh, Finley.
They're cute. They're not smart.
Yeah. They're just kind of stupid. They're just stupid cats who eat wires. I'm an author of 21 novels, and I tried to apply for a writing position. For a writing position to try and help swing the industry towards better writing. Companies are looking for script writers, not novel authors. Well, I think, especially in the age of AI stuff, I think what you're going to see is a lot more people that are just, they're good at the little bitty slivers. And they hire one person to do the big story, the big overarching stuff, and that's it.
Sorry, you gotta look at the red fajitas comment.
Luke, you couldn't breathe working out. What makes you think your back can sit in a beanbag chair? It'll take me 35 minutes to get out of it. Just like, I'm fine. Or I'll have one of those like handlebars they have at nursing
A
homes.
little button that flashes
Yeah.
the light up.
I've fallen. I've fallen, Nikki. I can't get out.
Hold on, kids. Dad's stuck in the chair again.
Yeah, Luke streamed for 15 hours yesterday. Not because he wanted to, because he laid down in the beanbag chair and couldn't get out. So everybody just watched him.
In the air.
Yeah. That'd be funny. Oh, man. Yeah, Dan, activist writers. I mean, it's just, if you're going to be a writer, I automatically take you less seriously when I see activist attached to your name. Like, if you're a good writer, you're just going to be known as a writer. Like, you don't need to say that you're an activist writer because you made a name for yourself as a writer. Maybe you can have activist motivations or whatever, but if you're a good writer, the quality of your writing should carry it, you know? Where was I? I'm sorry, I missed some earlier. Harrison, thank you for that too. Who would win in a fight, young Kratos or Wukong? Young Kratos after he becomes God of War? I think Kratos. He's got that fire in his eyes, man. And trauma. Trauma goes a long way.
Yeah, it does.
So how does a WW live service game work? Oh, Wonder Woman? Oh, we'll get back to that. Once we get back to the article and go through that, I'll tell you what I think is happening.
Weight Watchers.
Weight Watchers, yeah.
Weight Watchers live service.
Now that's a moneymaker.
Mm-hmm.
The Keymaker, thank you for the 2. They wanted to be Atlas so bad. I mean, who doesn't at this point? Samuel, thank you for the 10. Beanbag money. Thank you, my friend. Also, playing KCD2, it's awesome. Your review made me buy it, so thank you. I'm glad, my friend. I'm glad. Enjoy it, because it is phenomenal. And I also want it in my life, directed straight into my veins. That's another one of those games I wish I could just forget and re-experience. Loxy also, I'm so sorry. I got distracted thank you for the 6 months, my friend. That's crazy. 6 months already. Time is flying, man. Stop the world. I want to get off. Weight Watchers Simulator. Now there's an idea. There's a concept right there. Yeah.
I joined a Weight Watchers group online, not because I'm doing it, but because I want to see what kind of recipes people come up with that are totally not healthy that fit in the Weight Watchers diet. There's a ton. There's like, they call something a fat bomb, and it's like cream cheese with
Yeah.
yogurt. Oh, what else?
It reminds me of a buddy in high school. He was a vegetarian, and he would lecture us all the time, like all the other people in the friend group. He'd lecture us about how unhealthy everything we were eating was. But this guy was a vegetarian, and yet, like, I'm not joking, he lived on cheese quesadillas and mac and cheese, like the Velveeta mac and cheese. But he just thought by not eating meat, he was automatically healthier. And I was like, no, not really. Like, I love quesadillas. I love mac and cheese. That's great. But like, you could eat, I don't even know, like turkey jerky and tuna and carrots and celery. And he'd be like, wow. Okay. I mean, I guess you've just like, you don't care anymore, as he's like unfolding his Taco Bell cheese quesadilla. It's like, bro, he's a funny guy. Anyway, sorry, I can't breathe, dude. It's killing me. But I have to wait a bit longer before I can take another hit of my inhaler that I have. He was better than us lesser mortals. Yeah, dude, for real. In the US, probably even vegetables are not really healthy. You never know, man. I like baby carrots. Give me baby carrots. I'll live on those. That's all I need. Let's see. People worried about Veilguard Riders affecting Yote should relax. Yote is supposed to be out this year. I doubt the story isn't finished at this point. No, you're right. It's finished. The point is, they're saying that the lady that was a senior writer on Veilguard, that did all the like big story arc and like character archetype writing and all that, she did all the work to establish that for Veilguard and then left once they were pretty much done with the story. She goes to work on Ghost of Yote when they're writing the story. And now she's still there, but the story's pretty much done. So I think their point is that she was hired before they saw the colossal flop that was Dragon Age Veilguard in terms of financial performance, and primarily because of the writing and writing problems. And so she moved from that, but nobody knew how bad Veilguard's writing was going to be yet. And then she was hired to do the writing for this other game, but now it's too late to change it, all of that stuff. Might still be a nothing burger, because again, there's a lot of people that work on these games. And who knows, maybe she was the one, maybe the reason she left BioWare back in 22 was because she wasn't happy with the friendship simulator stuff. Maybe she was upset and knew the writing was going to be bad, and so she left to go work at a company and do what she actually wanted to do. It's all about like perspective and how you look at it, because one departure, you can look at it as evidence of another game's collapse, or you can look at it as evidence of like her knowledge of the game being bad and she wanted to do things differently. So you just don't know. You don't know. Yeah, maybe Emily Perez was a great movie. Yeah, it's all about perspective. If you're crazy, then maybe it's a great movie. I haven't seen it. I don't have the strength. I'm not brave enough. Excuse me. What's your plan, babe? Oh, dude, it's already 1:30.
I just came to annoy you.
You're fine. I'm in the middle of a segment where we're reading through an article about this disaster, because there's another one.
There's another one?
Yeah, the Wonder Woman game that's been in development for 7 years. They are starting over, or they started over.
Maybe that's okay. Maybe they needed to start over because it was trash.
Maybe, but also it seems like there may be other things at play.
Like what?
Well, that's what the segment's for. That's what we're going through. I forgot to pull up this. I wanted to see the date on this article. Oh, man. I found something worrying. Everyone should be scared. Oh no. Oh no. I was in the car earlier. I was wondering about this very particular thing. Timing of a statement and a disclosure Warner Brothers made about the Wonder Woman game. And the timeline is not good. I'll show you. Yeah. Oh man, it's a mess. I love you. I love you.
You just need to come up with a code word like banana split, babe.
Banana split. Babe, banana split.
You need a banana split out of here. Can you just split the banana?
We're gonna do like members and sub game nights where we're gonna play games and do like more candid streams. It's gonna be fun. So we're gonna do that. Oh, I can't breathe. But yeah. Anyway, I love you. I love you. I'll see you later. Probably won't time out like that.
It won't time out.
Yeah, because I'm still on the first topic. Yeah. So I've got a lot to get through. Love you. Okay. Oh, my lungs. Loved your K-City2 review. I've been watching your channel for a few years. Got me through some tough days. Thank you. Keep doing the Lord's work, man. Jesus Christ be praised. Thank you, my friend. Toxic Scribe. Very generous, too. Thank you for the 5. Thank you. And yeah, hopefully it's brighter days now as we talk about some hilariously bad stuff. Okay. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. Yeah. So good luck, Jacob, editing this together. All right. So, they go on, but Haddad's tenure has left major gaps in its portfolio that will likely persist for the next year or two, according to people familiar with the business. The company had been counting on Suicide Squad and Multiverses to generate revenue throughout this year, but instead has ended support for both games. In the wake of its miscalculation, Warner Brothers has little to release in the stretch ahead, beyond a refreshed version of 2023's hit Hogwarts Legacy and a Lego title with a few mobile games. Yeah, there's still allegedly a director's cut coming for Hogwarts Legacy. We don't really know when. They, of course, just did the mod update kind of out of nowhere. And so we'll see when the director's cut lands. Who knows? But the Lego title, mobile games, that stuff's still in the works, but those are not exactly like the heaviest of hitters. So they definitely have made some oopsies. The interesting thing is this guy, David Haddad, he was the guy in charge of all the video game division. And what's interesting about him is that he had made statements about the need for single player games, diversity in their portfolio, stuff like that. Basically, don't just make live service games. Have a little bit of single player, have some mobile games, have live service, like shake it up. What we've heard from David Zaslav, the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, he said that they want to utilize their IP and everything should be a live service. And they think there's tons of opportunities to create shared experiences through these IP. So the thought was David Haddad maybe was one of the few people that was still pushing for single player stuff like Hogwarts Legacy. And now that he's gone, maybe it's all, no hands or no holds barred. Everything is just a free for all and they're just going to turn everything live service. But we don't know. Maybe his departure will be a really good thing because he did greenlight and lead them to the success with Hogwarts Legacy, but he also was the same guy that thought Suicide Squad was a good idea, that thought Quidditch Champions would pop off and be the next Rocket League. He thought Multiverses would take down Smash Bros, which of course all is just wrong. So maybe his departure actually ultimately is a good thing. As they continue, one of the company's biggest bets in development, a video game based on Wonder Woman, has struggled to coalesce, according to people familiar with the project. Earlier last year, it was rebooted and switched directors. The game has already cost more than $100 million, said the people who asked not to be identified, discussing non-public information, and is still years away from release, if it ever makes it to market. J.B. Perrette, Warner Brothers head of games and global streaming, said in an interview that the company remains bullish on video games and that he will take a larger role in the division as the company looks for Haddad's successor. Quote, "We'll get right back to profitability in 2025. We won't get back to the profitability we want to get back to in the next 2 to 3 years." I believe that. "You will take 2 to 3 years to rebuild, reset to levels we want to be at, but the bounce back is immediate as far as going from loss-making to profitability." This is where it gets interesting. According to interviews with 24 current and former Warner Brothers employees, a lack of strong, cohesive vision during Haddad's reign, a tumultuous period in which Warner Brothers struggled through multiple reorganizations, led to years of ineffectual, trend-chasing, wasted development time. Along the way, once revered studios under the Warner Brothers umbrella have taken reputational hits, lost key staff members, and burned through hundreds of millions of dollars. This is exactly the problem with their direction, is that they've pretty much destroyed Rocksteady as a developer. All of the big name devs and team members are gone. So now it's not even the team that made Arkham Knight. It's the team that made Suicide Squad. So they're not anywhere near as valuable of a team as they once were. Naturally. And then Monolith has also struggled to do anything, and so they've been hemorrhaging talent. The only team that has seen significant improvement and success, of course, has been Avalanche behind Hogwarts Legacy. They describe some of Haddad's stuff. So colleagues described him as a polished executive who does not appear to spend much time playing video games himself, something subordinates occasionally found challenging as they tried to talk through the nuances of product decisions. Staff also griped that it could take months to receive answers to their questions on matters big and small, ranging from a studio's next game to whether they would participate in the annual E3 trade conference. Haddad declined to comment. So, I mean, standard executive that doesn't really do a whole lot. At subsidiaries such as Warner Brothers Games Montreal and Monolith Productions, Warner Brothers Games Montreal, they did the Gotham Knights game, Batman Arkham Origins. Monolith did the Nemesis system games. Staff members felt stuck in limbo as they waited for decisions from Haddad and his team. The executives in Burbank may have felt pressure to avoid making big calls at the time because the entire organization was beset with uncertainty. Shortly after Haddad started, the division's parent company was purchased by telecom giant AT&T, triggering a lengthy antitrust trial, and then, before long, spun out to merge with Discovery Inc. The corporate shakeups left heads spinning, generated constant buzz that the video game division might be for sale. And this is part of the problem is, for years, there's been rumblings that maybe they were going to sell their gaming division, which means the studios, the IP related, or at least the rights to the IP, stuff like that. And if you're planning to sell, you probably don't want to make a lot of huge moves and greenlight a bunch of expenditures. Like, I'm running into this in my house. Because we're not going to be in this house forever, probably not even for particularly long. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, I could spend money on renovating the bathrooms. What if we did that? Bathroom remodels. I could spend money doing landscaping in the backyard, right? But if I'm just going to sell it right now and not enjoy any of those upgrades, and I'm probably not going to get my money back totally on those investments, why would I greenlight that? So if I plan to sell the house in a year, why would I spend a bunch of money, thousands and thousands of dollars on this other stuff if I'm not going to get all that money back and it's just going to be basically a gift to the next guy? So that's kind of where they land, is that they just don't want to rock the boat too much. You know? Loxy, I mean, sure, but it's really easy to just point at the guy leaving as a sole reason for failures by Warner Brothers. Yeah, I mean, and without a doubt, I think one of the biggest problems at a lot of these big corporations is thinking again that like just because you had success at one particular type of company or in this one division does not mean that that translates into gaming. They think that it will, but it just doesn't. As you can see, like Haddad, a Harvard Business School graduate, spent the early part of his career at toy and entertainment companies, joined Warner Brothers Games in 2013, became head of division 2 years later. So he's been in charge since like 2015. So he greenlit Hogwarts Legacy. That was his project that found amazing success. But he also was behind like Shadow of War, Suicide Squad, and Gotham Knights, and all these other disasters that they've had. So you could point to one good thing, or maybe even a couple good things, but there's also been a lot of disasters under his leadership. So I can understand the theory that maybe he was the last bastion of hope for single player games under their leadership, but he also has not exactly had a great track record for a while. What's going to be more telling is who they replace him with. If they replace him with just another Jim Ryan type of guy, nothing will change. It'll probably get worse, and they probably will sell the gaming division. But I mean, time will tell with that one. As they go on, there was a lot going on politically within the organization, said Martin Carrier, the former head of Warner Bros. Games Montreal. The focus on games was perhaps lost a bit. By 2023, the landscape appeared to be stabilizing, and Zaslav was citing the company's video game business as a unique strength compared to other top film studios. While Sony Group Corp has a significant video game hardware and software business, other Hollywood rivals have largely gotten out of the field, preferring to license their film and TV properties to outside developers, collecting royalties and eliminating much of the financial risk at a time when the cost of making games has soared. Eventually, Warner Brothers could decide to emulate Walt Disney Co. and license more of its franchises to external companies. Quote, this from an analyst, I think we'll see more licenses get farmed out to experienced developers while the remaining Warner Brothers game studios are left to focus on things they're good at, which I think this makes the most sense. If you want to do live service, hire a live service company and studio to do it. If you want to do that, focus on the expertise. If you've got ZeniMax or something, and you greenlight ZeniMax Online Studios, they're already working on a game, but I'm just using them as an example of a developer, and they make MMOs, pay them to make a Hogwarts Legacy or a Hogwarts type MMO. Don't have Avalanche try to do it. If you want to do a Batman looter shooter, hire a looter shooter studio and team to do it. Do a tighter scope and do that. That's the key, is to have people who are good at this, do that. People who are good at this other thing, do that. Keep everybody happy. I think that's the key. They go on to describe a little bit more detail about Monolith, which I wonder if he's going to mention the thing I'm going to bring up, because there's an interesting little tidbit here. So they've already mentioned that they rebooted development on this Wonder Woman game early last year, I believe was the exact statement. Yeah, early last year it was rebooted and switched directors. So bear that in mind. Early 2024 it was rebooted. We'll come back to it. Monolith, based in Kirkland, Washington, was once a darling of Warner Brothers Gaming Group thanks to the hit 2014 game Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor, one of my favorites of all time. It's so good. A sequel released in 2017 did well, yet failed to surpass the first title. Afterwards, the studio began working on a brand new franchise that would experiment with procedural storytelling, but executives at Warner Brothers weren't particularly interested in creating new characters and universes from scratch, according to people familiar with discussions. They suggested to Monolith's crew that they should attach the project to one of the company's many established franchises, such as Game of Thrones or something in the DC Comics portfolio. The devs, who had won critical acclaim with Shadow of Mordor's unique narrative system, in which fallen enemies could come back to life with memory of the protagonist's actions, struggled to graft another existing franchise onto their nascent ideas. The game plodded along for more than 3 years in something of a standoff where executives at Warner Brothers appeared to know it wasn't going to happen, but did not take decisive action. In 2021, Warner Brothers finally canceled it. The head of Monolith, Kevin Stevens, not related to me, unfortunately, and most of his directors quit and started a new studio with rival EA. The remaining staff soon pivoted to a game based on Wonder Woman comic books. So already you see 4 years of time wasted. The directors and the head honchos, head of Monolith, and most of his directors leave because they're not happy with the direction they're being forced to go. They said, we didn't want to do a Wonder Woman game. We didn't want to do that. We're upset. If you really want to do this, we're going to leave. And so they left. So now, again, you see a lot of the lead talent behind those Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War games. A lot of that key talent's gone. They continue. It has now been more than 7 years since the studio's last game. An initial version of Wonder Woman tried reimagining the Nemesis system with the game's namesake heroine befriending enemies. What? Let me read that again. An initial version of Wonder Woman tried reimagining the Nemesis system with the game's namesake heroine befriending enemies. I swear to God, what is it with every one of these games being about friendship? The jokes write themselves. Like, yeah, it's literally a frenemy system. Instead of a nemesis system, it's a friendnesis system. Like, it literally is a friendship simulator. To be clear, they pivoted away from that, but that's where they started in 2021. This worries me because if they thought that was a good idea, if they thought that that's what gamers would like, that demonstrates a disconnect that's pretty severe. I can only imagine the disappointed sigh and outrage that would emit from the theater when they would reveal that the Wonder Woman game was about befriending enemies and creating friends. And that's what they were doing with the Nemesis system. I can only imagine, dude. Oh my God. That's crazy. That's insane. So after that, they tossed out that idea in favor of a more traditional action adventure game. That doesn't. So they might not even be using the Nemesis system. An initial version of the Wonder Woman game tried reimagining the Nemesis system with the game's namesake heroine befriending enemies, but that idea has since been tossed out in favor of a more traditional action adventure game. It might not even have the Nemesis system, dude. The new version. Imagine how disappointing that would be if we got this game from Monolith after all these years. It's probably going to be a decade between releases when they finally get this thing out, if it's not canceled. And imagine if after all that time they just didn't do anything with the Nemesis system. What a disappointment that would be. Now, Wonder Woman's fate remains in question, according to people familiar with the business, because of challenges following the changes in Monolith's leadership and issues surrounding the game's technology. So I've actually spoken to 2 people that have worked on Wonder Woman, and they both cited issues with the tech, specifically getting the new version of the Nemesis system working, because they did engine changes, they moved, and it just wasn't coming together. It wasn't working right. And so at least I can back up that point, that the 2 people I've spoken to have said that, yeah, there were a lot of technical problems on the back end. But what's interesting about this, remember, they said that they rebooted this in early 2021. What other stuff was happening, or early 2024, not 2021. Sorry, I read something. What other stuff was being said around 2024, early 2024? David Zaslav, CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, was insisting that he wanted to make the most of their IP, that he wanted to create shared experiences, turn it into like live service stuff that generates money long term. He said that in early 2024, going into mid 2024, even in the face of Suicide Squad's disastrous launch, he said, still, we have a lot of potential here. That's what we need to do. The Wonder Woman game was rebooted in early 2024. Something happened in November of 2023. There was a report from WCCF Tech. In the midst of Warner Brothers vowing to double down on games as a service, live service stuff, the Wonder Woman game had a job posting that mentioned specifically the desire to hire people with experience in this realm. This is what David Zaslav said specifically around this time. Our focus is on transforming our biggest franchises from largely console and PC based with 3 to 4 year release schedules to include more always on gameplay through live services, multi-platform and free to play extensions, with the goal to have more players spending more time and money on more platforms. Ultimately, we want to drive engagement and monetization of longer cycles at higher levels. We have specific capabilities. We are currently under scale and see significant opportunity to generate greater post-purchase revenue. This is what they were saying right before, okay? In this same era. And this job posting that they brought up, specifically, it said that they were looking for software engineers for gameplay on the Wonder Woman game that had experience in, quote, helping maintain a live software product or game. Now, what was interesting is in November, they came back out and they insisted, where's the update? Where did it go? Yeah, this is the follow-up. In response to this article from WCCF Tech, Warner Brothers actually came out and said to IGN, Wonder Woman is a single-player action-adventure game set in a dynamic open world. This third-person experience will allow players to become Diana of Themyscira, I don't know, and introduce an original story set in the DC universe while also featuring the Nemesis system. Wonder Woman is not being designed as a live service. This was posted and updated November 17th. When was it rebooted? Early 2024. So, just a couple months after they deny that it's live service, even though they're hiring for people with experience in live service stuff, live operations. And even though their CEO is saying we see opportunities, not currently in November of 23, not currently being utilized to monetize these things. So we see opportunity. It's possible in early 2024, he took action to take advantage of that opportunity he saw. In other words, I think it's very, very possible that Wonder Woman was rebooted in early 2024. A new director was placed on it, and they decided to pursue a more live service offering. Because I've seen people point to this denial of it being live service in the last 12 hours or whatever it's been. People pointing to this being like, no, they said it wasn't live service. They said it wasn't live service in November of 2023. It was rebooted in early 2024 with a brand new director, a new direction, and the CEO saying that they want to turn everything live service. So that was an effing lie. It might not have been a lie at the time. In November of 2023, I don't think it was a live service game. But I think there's a really good chance that after it was rebooted in early 2024, the new version may be. Because every sign, all the smoke is billowing. And when there's a lot of smoke, typically there's a fire, you know? Could be a pivot. Yeah. So this worries me a lot. And considering the team that's been tasked with rebooting it is the same team that thought using the Nemesis system to literally create a friendship system. That does not make me feel like this is destined for greatness. Maybe it is. I love the Nemesis system. I love Shadow of Mordor. Shadow of War I found frustrating. It's got, it's a solid game now after all the patches and stuff. It's still weirdly hollow at the end. But yeah, man, what a disaster. Alan, if they're $100 million deep, how many copies would they have to sell to come out even? That's the problem with this. This is the same problem Dragon Age Veilguard ran into. With these development hell situations and reboots, you reach a point where you can't break even. You can just minimize losses. Dragon Age Veilguard seeking 3 million units, that would not have even broke even. Like that wasn't enough. Even with everybody buying full price copies, that wouldn't cover it. But it would minimize the losses. And with this, at some point they're going to have to be like, do we just try to minimize losses, get this out, and then figure out what the next project is? I mean, that's all they really can do. But they just started early last year on this new vision. Man. Corbin, thank you for the 5. Why did Warner Brothers not write these games off instead of ACME versus Acme versus Coyote? Why reboot Wonder Woman without the Nemesis system? Just how? So to be clear, they are being, I think you mean like colloquially, why don't they write them off? They are being written off, in the books financially. But why didn't they just call it quits and do something totally different? I think the thing is that's why I don't think that this reboot is like a little adjustment. I don't think they're like, okay, this version of the Wonder Woman open world single player game isn't working, so let's just try again and tweak it and just do something slightly different. I think a reboot is something transformational. It got a new director. That's not a small shift. I mean, they're looking for somebody to take the game in a totally different direction. And the only direction we've heard them say they want to go is live service, monetize it, more post-purchase revenue, all that stuff. So, doesn't instill a lot of confidence. Because even if they were to cancel the game fully and they're like, okay, Wonder Woman's dead, shut it down. Even if they were to do that, what's the next step? The next step is like what? Shut the studio down? Green light another Shadow of Earth, Shadow of Middle Earth, a Shadow of, I don't even know what they'd call it, but what do they green light there? I mean, the people that made those games so good have left. The directors all left. The head of the studio left. So we'll see what happens with Wonder Woman. But after hearing all this, I went from being like, oh, I'm excited to see what they've been cooking, to I have a bad feeling about this. So maybe that makes me a cynical prick, but I feel like there's things to look at and inform that opinion. Gator Nader, thank you for the 12. My first live stream. Take this donation, you common-sensed person. I'm glad that there's someone who thinks smart. Oh, shucks. Thank you, my friend. Glad to have you. Very generous, too. 12 euros. 12 euro. Am I allowed to buy things other than euros with euros? Or, or is it like, can you spend it on anything? Or is it like a coupon certificate thing? It's a bad joke. I'm sorry. I'm just too much sit on. No. It is forbidden. Oh man. Oh my god. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let me go back. So that's the Wonder Woman stuff.
$50 through Super Chat. In work on a Saturday on Double Bubble doing paperwork and sneakily playing Baldur's Gate. Such is life, take it while it's there, skeptic for life.
Skeptic for life, baby. Oh man, working on a Saturday. That's crazy. That's crazy. Skeptic for life, my friend. Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully your new lady is doing well too. Wish you nothing but the best, my friend Sean. Okay, now we got to touch on the other part of this. Chancer Games, new Insider Gaming article. PlayStation said no to an Insomniac pitch. What pitch? Resistance 4 was pitched by Insomniac. Ooh. Oh, it was in the interview with Kind of Funny Games and he threw it out. That they pitched it and it wasn't greenlit. That might have been years ago though. Did a pitch for that one is wonderful concept, but just in terms of timing, market opportunity didn't work out. But it was a result of a lot of Insomniac team members being passionate about extending the story further because I do believe a lot of resistance. Interesting. Who knew? Maybe they'll return to it. A lot of those pitches end up eventually happening. It's just a matter of timing. Who knows? Nissan, thank you for the 5. Better to be a cynical prick who's sometimes wrong than a forever optimist who's mostly disappointed. I mean, I just think so often with these games like this, there's many red flags. And that's the thing that drives me crazy is that a lot of people, they just like intentionally ignore the red flags because they want to preserve the hype. And it's almost like, well, if I'm aware of all the negative stuff, then like it will, I guess, put negative energy into the universe and the game will therefore be bad. It's like, no, if the game's bad, the game's bad. If you go into it skeptical and the game ends up being great, you are way more excited and pleased than like everybody else. If you go into this game being like, I don't know, I think it looks really, there's some weird stuff, and then ends up being fantastic, you're going to have way more fun with that than the guy that was like stupid hyped and thought it was going to be game of the generation. You know? Yeah, they already booked with Wolverine and Spider-Man 3. Why more games they could delay? Yeah, I mean, they are pretty efficient. They can pump out stuff pretty quick, but I think with how expensive games have gotten, they just can't afford to have anything that they don't think is going to be a massive slam dunk. Okay. Did I? Yeah, I'm caught up there. Okay. So we got to touch on. We got to finish this. Okay. So Jacob, just so you know, that whole Wonder Woman discussion, all that, you can just turn into a gigantic, I don't know how long it's going to be, like 45 minutes or whatever. That's fine. I actually had people telling me they wish that some of the stream clips were longer. So just go for like the really big segment. You don't have to worry about editing it too much. It's okay if we ramble a little bit, but let's do the next part. Okay. New segment. So separate segment, same source. Okay, so we just talked about the Wonder Woman game and how I think there's a bajillion red flags around that now. News that they wanted to rework the Nemesis system in the original version of the game into a friendship system. I'm not joking. They wanted to have it so Wonder Woman befriends enemies and they use the Nemesis system to simulate friendships. I cannot believe that was real, but that's what they wanted to do. But now that we've talked about that, if you've not seen that Luke Stevens live clip, go watch that one. But now we are here in the latter part of the article to talk about Warner Brothers Games Montreal, Avalanche, Rocksteady. Specifically, I'm interested in like the Rocksteady bits, but let's touch on this. So Warner Brothers Games Montreal, which helmed 2013's Batman Arkham Origins, supported other projects, is one of the biggest pieces in Warner Brothers' collection of gaming assets. In late 2016, not long after Haddad took over control of the division, the studio received a new mandate. At the time, successive titles such as Grand Theft Auto Online and Destiny, which generated recurring revenue streams long after release by convincing players to spend money on in-game purchases, was ramping up the pressure on executives across the industry to push for their own live service games. At Warner Brothers, the favored buzzword became digitally powered. Oh, go F yourself. What a stupid term. You can just imagine in a conference room, we don't like using live service or loot boxes. No, that's gross. We prefer digitally powered. Dry up. How dare you? How dare you? What are you talking about? What does that even mean exactly? Like, powered by digits? It's electronically powered, as is everything. What are you talking about? Oh my God. It's people give like Apple crap because Apple tries to do their like own marketing spin on stuff. At least theirs kind of makes sense. Like they didn't want to just say AI for their phones. So they're like, it's Apple intelligence. It's also like, shut up, Apple. Shut up. It's AI. Like, we know what it is. Okay, stop trying to make it your own thing. But at least that makes sense. You're like, oh, it's intelligence within Apple devices. That at least I can connect the dots. Digitally powered? What the hell does that even mean, bro? Like, anyway, I'm getting worked up. The Montreal studio. Sorry, I mispronounced it. The Montreal. You just don't enunciate anything in French. The Montreal studio began working on a new live service Batman game that it hoped would freshen up the franchise by ditching Bruce Wayne. Ooh. Freshen up is a word. Halfway, or a few words actually, two to be specific. I'm going to move on. Halfway through development, as it struggled to make progress on the new project, the studio dropped the live service component. In 2022, it released Gotham Knights, which went on to receive mediocre reviews and generate tepid sales. What did I tell you? The inventory system in Arkham Knight, or in Gotham Knights, was so hilariously bad. Gotham Knights inventory. There's also like the crafting stuff. You remember this menu? It just looked like a mobile game. Yeah, Gear System explained. Don't be tricked from Not the Winner Gaming. This whole thing looked like a mobile game. All of the crafting was tied to these currencies and in like different crafting materials that you would have. And it was just so needlessly complicated and insane. And the other thing about this game was that there were a bajillion outfits and cosmetics, like a hilarious number for each of the characters, which normally would be a really good thing, but you could tell it had been built to sell you those cosmetics. And the only reason they were all included in the game was because they had pivoted away from the microtransactions. Yeah, as you can see, salvage required. I guarantee you that they were going to sell you like loot boxes, loot packs with these currencies inside. Guarantee it. 1,000%. They were going to sell this to you. They were going to sell the cosmetic aspect to you. 1,000%. Wow, look at that. Oh my God. I forgot how mind-numbing the inventory stuff was in this game. But it's because it was built, I'm pretty damn sure, to just sell you all this stuff. Oh, you want a level 16 suit mod chip? Well, you got to do some polls. I guarantee you that's what they were going to do, dude. Guarantee you. So they pivoted away from that. Thank God. The game could have been even worse. And they would release Gotham Knights to mediocre reviews. Yeah, it also had one of the most like roll your eyes ending ever. It was really stupid. Even so, based on the hard-earned lessons from the previous development cycle and equipped with new proven technology, the Montreal studio leaders wanted to make another iteration of Gotham Knights, a 1.5 version that would fix some of its predecessor's flaws. But their bosses nixed the idea, according to people familiar with the plans, and instead assigned the bulk of Montreal's staff to help out with other projects across Warner Brothers. In the months that followed, the Montreal studio continued trying to get a new project off the ground. First, they pitched a game based on the comic book anti-hero John Constantine, who was played by Keanu Reeves in the 2005 feature film. Dude, that sounds badass. That would be super cool if they could do that. Imagine if they even got Keanu to voice it and do motion capture for it. That'd be crazy cool. That'd be really cool. Haddad's team, led by Vice President of Production Ben Bell, initially said they were excited about the idea, but when asked for budget and timeline approvals, they remained non-committal. Shocker, according to people familiar with the plans. After months of waffling, Bell suggested that they should work instead on a game starring a more recognizable character, like the Joker or the Flash. They chose to go with the superhero speedster, but in 2023, Warner Brothers released Flash, a lavish movie starring Ezra Miller, which bombed at the box office. The video game has since been scrapped. Oh, wow. Just imagine, because Ezra Miller's out there beating strangers up in the street outside nightclubs and stuff. These poor people in Montreal have to have their entire project scrapped. Dude, that's insane. That's crazy, dude. What a stupid reason to have your project demolished. You just come into work one day. It's like, what happened? Ezra Miller is beating people up, so we're all out of a job. It's just like, God damn it. Oh my God. Over the past 2 years, most of their leadership have resigned, not just because of the lack of new games, but also due to frustration with their corporate bosses, according to people familiar with the events. Now, the Montreal studio is helping out with other projects such as Wonder Woman while working on a pitch for a new game based on Game of Thrones. So they're not even working on their own game. They're working on Wonder Woman, helping with that, and then they're working on a pitch. What a waste, dude. What an absolute waste. That's remarkable. That's crazy. Man, this is why in the games industry, so much of this, like so much of just the industry in general, is about finding talent and retaining it. Like, it's not just about putting out like a solid financially performing game. You have to find talent, retain it, preserve it, attract it, like new talent, because the moment that you start to have those experienced devs and the people that know what they're doing, once they start leaving, you're really, really screwed. It's the trouble with what was it? Arcane Austin. There was that story that I believe Jason Schreier also wrote about the whole debacle of Redfall. Unfortunately, I'm sure we all remember Redfall, but basically what happened is that they had made Prey. And, you know, they had, of course, the long history of Dishonored with the studio in Lyon. And so it was a well-accomplished studio and people wanted to work at an Arcane studio, satellite or otherwise. But because Redfall hadn't been announced yet, they had to keep it hush-hush. So they had people applying for the job that thought they were going to be working on like Prey 2 or Dishonored something, or what would eventually be Blade or something like that. They thought they were going to be working on something like that. But they apply, they get the job, show up for the first day of work, signing all the NDAs, and then they see what they're working on, and it's a 4-player co-op looter shooter. They're like, what? And they say, oh, well, I mean, if the team thinks this is really going to work, okay. And then the person across from you goes, oh, no, like most of the team that worked on those games, yeah, they're all gone. Yeah, they left when we started working on this. You're actually taking their job. Oh. Shoot. And so immediately morale, I got a new job at one of my favorite developers. Oh God, everything sucks immediately. It literally, upon walking in the door and seeing what's on the computers, you just be like totally crestfallen. Imagine how disappointing that would be. Imagine going, you get hired at Rockstar and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to work on a Grand Theft Auto or a Red Dead or a Bully or something like that. I'm going to be working on one of the best games ever. You walk in on your first day and you look at your computer and it's like, oh no, this is an NFT mobile game. Oh, like I cannot imagine the disappointment that those people would feel. They go from thinking that they landed their dream job to realizing they are replacing somebody that got out because they knew that the ship was sinking, and now you're on here trying to keep the damn thing afloat. Like, I can only imagine the disappointment. But as a result, a lot of those people also left. I saw some of you guys in chat saying I would immediately quit. I think probably some people did, because they're like, I've been looking for a job. I'm right out of school. I'm in Austin, Texas. There's a bunch of other studios here. I'm going to go work in another studio. I'm going to take one of the other job offers I got. So I'm sure a lot of them did bail, you know? And that's the problem, is once you lose that talent, then the game comes out and doesn't work. It's not performant, to say the least, and it loses money. I honestly don't blame Microsoft for shutting that studio down. The talent that made it Arcane Austin left. They were all gone. Studios are not about the name on the door. It's not about the building it's in. It's about the people that are inside the building that make the studio what it is. Once those people that made the studio what it was, once they're gone, it's just a shell. You know, it doesn't actually mean much of anything. And that's been the problem with Warner Brothers, it seems. It's been the problem with a lot of these companies that have been pushing live service stuff. It's a lot of those single player, people, they leave and they go form their own studios or work at other companies that actually want their talents. And I don't blame them. Like, I really don't. It makes a hell of a lot more sense, frankly, to go that route. But what about Rocksteady? I mean, all of that was about the Batman potential at Montreal. What about Rocksteady? Well, buoyed by the success of Hogwarts Legacy, Haddad invested heavily in Warner Brothers' next big title, Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League, which had been in development for more than 6 years at Rocksteady, telling staff it could also be a billion-dollar game. He and his team greenlit TV commercials and successfully pushed for coverage on the Warner Brothers' own cable news network, CNN. But Rocksteady, the developer of the beloved Batman Arkham trilogy, was admired for its single-player games and had attracted employees who knew how to make such titles. Pivoting to Suicide Squad, a multiplayer shooter, was an awkward fit that led to attrition and turmoil. Again, people leaving and talent leaving. Late in production, Rocksteady boss Jamie Walker and Sefton Hill, Jamie Walker, Sefton Hill, left to start a new company and recruited former colleagues to join them. They literally left when they saw the ship was sinking, made a new ship, and then brought over their favorite people onto the new ship that wasn't sinking and left everyone else behind to drown. I understand why they did it. I'm sure pragmatically it was the right choice for them to make. But I whatever respect, to people that I've never met, whatever respect I had for Jamie Walker, Sefton Hill, I lost a lot of it when I heard what they did. I was like, that's slimy. That's real slimy. It was at least the guy that was like the head of Firewalk, the guys that did Concord. He stayed through the whole thing. When it didn't perform, he resigned. He said, this is my fault. I'm going to go down with the ship. That's what we're doing. Whereas these guys, they bail so they don't have to deal with any of the blowback. Ultimately, fans didn't have an appetite, to say the least, for another online shooter, and the game tanked. Rocksteady gave up on plans for content after the first year, ending the story with a hasty animation that backtracked on some of the narrative's most controversial aspects, revealing that the superheroes thought to be dead were in fact clones. Problem solved. Now, Rocksteady is looking to return to Batman for a single-player game, but according to people familiar with the timeline, the new project is years away from landing. So, here we are. The Warner Brother Games debacle is yet another story of mismanagement, of wasted time, wasted talent, and maybe just at its core, waste. Just waste. They had multiple studios who were at one time, not that long ago, considered industry leaders in Monolith and Rocksteady. Even Warner Brothers Montreal was a very, very capable studio. I mean, they made Batman Arkham Origins, which is a lot of people's favorite Batman Arkham game, even though it's technically a spinoff. Like, they're very capable as a studio, as a team, but instead they pushed them to develop these soulless live service games, and they lost a lot of talent. They lost a lot of time, a lot of money. And now, even if they do course correct and they do have those teams make, or what's left of those teams, make single player games and make the games that they became famous for making, it's not the same people anymore. So it probably is not even the same level, you know? So it's just a waste. It's a waste. But all of this, I mean, hearing all of it, we might have a new Batman game in years, probably PlayStation 6 era. I mean, it's if they're just now getting going on it. The Wonder Woman game is rebooted, or was rebooted early last year. Wouldn't be surprised if that's a live service mess and debacle, friendship simulator, whatever the crap. The Warner Brothers Montreal team, they're not working on anything right now. They're working on a pitch and they're doing support for Wonder Woman. Like, it really is a masterclass at how to just blow a series of amazing opportunities. It's crazy, but to their credit, at least, I mean, the guy that's been in charge since 2015, pretty much since he took over, everything's gone wrong except Hogwarts Legacy. Everything's gone wrong. And he's gone now. He's out. So while initially you could say, like, he said some stuff that was supportive of single player games, his actions have spoken to the contrary. And the more I find out about his tenure at the top of the company, the more I'm like, how did this guy stay for as long as he did? Which, unfortunately, is a common occurrence in the gaming industry. Is this good news? I think Haddad's departure, his departure could be good. It could also spell for way worse. Because if they replace him with like a mobile game executive or something, you know, the former head of Zynga or something, then I think it just gets worse. I think they bring in somebody like that and they just turn everything into a mobile game. Everything gets turned into live service slop. So it could get way, way worse. On the other hand, they could hire like a former executive at CD Projekt Red, and all of a sudden they're doubling down on those types of experiences. You just don't know until you know. But that's why we're going to be able to tell a lot from who they put in that position, who gets promoted to take it over. Yeah, watch us to get Don Matrick again. Can you imagine? Man, that would be funny. They brought him back. We're bringing back the Xbox 360, everybody. Always online, no used copies. And the Kinect. All of our games are going to be on Kinect. Dude, that would be so freaking funny. Oh, anyway, what a disaster. What a disaster. But buckle up, because there's other things going on in the industry that we can talk about that are potentially good news, such as GTA 6 hitting targets and the appearance of initially sad news about Embracer Group and their hit game, or maybe not, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. But as we're going to talk about in the next segment, it's actually good news, and it's actually not what it looks like if you are able to read. So buckle up. Here we go. End of segment. End of segment. More Ubisoft news. Oh God. Am I ready? Can I handle it? Or is it bad? Which hentai site got a leak now? Oh man. Foddy99, thank you, my friend. 5 gifted subs over on Twitch. Welcome everybody. I did double check. So just as an update for everybody, in case you were thinking of becoming a member, we are on subs and YouTube wise with memberships. We're going to be making a member/sub only Discord server where we can all hang out. You can join guilds and teams and stuff with other members of the Red Flag Army. And we'll do game nights. We'll do like Jackbox nights, things like that. We're going to focus a lot on interactivity. So that's going to be one of our big pushes through this year. So if you're a sub, if you're a YouTube member, once we get everything running, it's not running yet, but once we get everything running, it should automatically add you to the Discord server so that you just automatically get access to it, which will be super, super cool. When you're making it, we're working on it like right now. Like once the stream goes off, I'm working on it again. There's some things, of course, I want to have scheduled and lined up. I want to have the game night lined up. I want to have our first You Laugh, You Lose scheduled and everything. So, and then we have to have mods and stuff ready to go. So we're working on all of that. Warhammer 40K paint night. Oh, that's it. See, that sounds fun. We could do that if I'm like painting something, you know, for Warhammer, and I just go live and we hang out on Discord and we can all chat and hang out. We could do that. Is Jacob a mod? Usually. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I can kind of breathe. What type of leak? Yeah, who has the leak? My developer got shut down. Oh, geez. Oh, geez. What should we touch on first? The GTA. Let's touch the GTA thing will be quick, and then we'll get to the stuff with KCD2. Am I reviewing Avowed? Yes. That's all I can say about it, though, because I didn't do any previews or preview events, so I can't really talk about like, what do you think of this? Because my opinion will be altered by the fact that I've been playing it for review. So I am reviewing it, but that's all I can say. Yeah. Jacob's stream night, and you have to do all the clips. Dude, that would actually be funny. Jacob, would you be down to host a night hangout on Discord? Maybe when you're making music or something, you're working on something like that. That could be fun. That could be really cool. Anyway, let's touch on this. So GTA 6, of course, it's very weird. Let me try this again. New intro. New intro to new segment. Everybody's keeping a close eye on GTA 6, right? Like everybody has an eagle eye on it. And it's because it's been really weird. It's been 14 months since we saw the last thing, like at all. It's weird. We got the trailer, but 14 months have passed. And typically with like Red Dead Redemption 2, what they did was it was a trailer a year, basically, and then they ramped it up as they got close. Once they got to the point where they were like 9 months out, they started doing much more regular drops of trailers, wallpapers, screenshots, that type of thing. However, it's been 14 months and nothing. So a lot of us have expected a GTA 6 announcement that they were going to delay it to 2026. Because right now, at least until a couple days ago, we thought it was pretty locked in that it was maybe planned initially for November, October, something like that in 2025, but they haven't said anything about it. There's probably trouble in paradise, so they're going to delay it to 2026. Well, there was an earnings call, and I told you guys on stream on Wednesday that earnings call would tell us what their plans are, because they have to tell investors what their plan is. And they doubled down on it. They say, the CEO says, we feel really good about a fall 2025 release. Which, I mean, this carries a lot of weight because they're telling investors who have hundreds of millions of dollars riding on the company's performance. And that company performance is contingent on GTA 6 releasing this fiscal year. If it gets delayed another fiscal year, you will see a stock drop. Like, there's hundreds of millions of dollars at play in these statements, okay? Like, I was talking to somebody that was like part of the like tangentially around the Ubisoft financial call when Yves Guillemot called Skull and Bones a quadruple A game. And what's weird about it is like at all of these earnings calls, this one and the Ubisoft one where he called it a quadruple A game, they have on a sheet of paper in front of the CEO and CFO and everybody else, they have written out very carefully what they can say, what they should say, approved by the finance team, by the accountants, approved by the lawyers. It's very crucial that you say exactly what you're supposed to say. And the quadruple A thing is something that Yves improvised. That was not written down. He wasn't supposed to say that. That's just something he said because he's like, ooh, this would sound good. This would make everybody buy it when they hear. I don't know why he's German all of a sudden, but it's just very funny because typically everything that's said here has been very, very carefully vetted and double and triple checked. Okay. That's why you can take this with less of a grain of salt because it's like the stakes are high in these meetings, but as you can see, Strauss-Zelnick said that while, quote, there's always risk of slippage, one of my favorite words in the English language, the company feel really good about the fall 2025 release date. He said, quote, look, there's always risk of slippage. And I think as soon as you say words like absolutely it releases in the fall, you jinx things. So we feel really good about it. He went on to say, look, I think the game is eagerly anticipated, both internally and externally. We know that Rockstar seeks perfection. I never claim success before it occurs. I'm fond of saying arrogance is the enemy of continued success. So we're all running scared and looking over our shoulders. And we know that the competition is not asleep. Our whole organization is super excited. And he's not, I mean, the competition's not asleep, but the competition is trying to stay as far away as possible. I mean, as you can also see here, the GTA 6 release date is one of the hottest topics in all of entertainment, with rival publishers waiting with bated breath for Rockstar to make its announcement. Earlier this week, EA CEO Andrew Wilson said he was willing to delay the new Battlefield out of the next fiscal year, depending on the release timing of its competitors' games, which was a thinly veiled nod to the behemoth that is GTA 6. And again, I've said it a bajillion times, forgive the repetition. Some people don't seem to believe or understand perhaps how big GTA 6 is going to be. Like GTA 6, as I've predicted for 2 years at this point, a year and a half, 2 years, whatever it is, it will be such a seismic release that you will see a quantifiable shift in like electricity usage. You will see the roads emptier globally. You'll see people calling out of work for days on end. You will see schools empty because everybody's staying in their dorm rooms to play the game. It will be the biggest of the big cultural phenomenon. I mean, it's rare for a video game to break into the mainstream. Elden Ring sort of did in some instances, but like the last game that really did it would be probably Red Dead Redemption 2. Like they were even making episodes and references to it in like South Park episodes. It's crazy. But that's just how big these things are. It's once they break into the mainstream, you can expect it to just be on another level. But without a doubt, I mean, the release date is crucial. I think there's a lot of other companies that don't expect it. Right now, you'll notice there's not really much announced for the fall. It's because nobody wants to be near GTA 6. And the other reason they don't want to be near GTA 6, in addition to fear of just cannibalization of sales, because, shocker, people are not made of endless money. There are times where you might have $70 for a game, and if you have to pick between GTA 6 and X game, you're going to pick GTA 6 probably. I think a lot of people will. And so they just want to avoid that potential problem by not being close to GTA 6, which is certainly an aspect of it. But the other side of it too, I think, is just that there's going to be a cannibalization of marketing. There's going to be a cannibalization of what's called earned media. So like you can spend money on ads and TV commercials and stuff for your game, but one of the other biggest components of video game marketing is earned media, which is like what I'm doing right now. I'm a streamer, YouTuber talking about GTA 6, even though I've not been paid to talk about it. It's just because it's a topic my audience wants to hear about and that I'm interested in, I talk about it. But that also is basically like a weird back way of promoting your game by just being out there and being discussed. And GTA 6 is going to dominate all major streamers. Like every major streamer is going to be talking about it, playing it. Like you'll see Rainbow players, Fortnite players. They're all going to dump those games for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks while they play GTA 6, because that's where all the views are going to be. And so nobody wants to be close to it because like you just won't really stand that much of a chance. It's called a shill. No, like if you're promoting it blindly, then, you know, like the typical TikToker meme where it's, I played this game and it's the best thing I've ever played, even though they've never played it and they don't actually know anything about the game. They probably don't even play games, period, but they just shill for it because that's where the money is. Like that's the TikToker thing. But just talking about something technically counts as earned media. Like even this article counts as earned media. Like Take-Two didn't pay them to post this article. They posted it because they're going to get ad revenue by talking about this game because people want to know about GTA 6. But just that promotes GTA 6 even more. So earned media is a well-known thing. You know, it's a big thing for sure. But they say they're confident about the fall 2025 release date. And I just, man... yeah, well, Luke sold out. If they can hit it, that'd be cool. I'd be all in. But I still think it's weird we've seen like nothing about the game. It might just be that they have like 3-4 trailers and they've decided, you know what, starting in August, we're just going to drop one a month and then we're going to drop the game in November. That's what we're doing. Maybe that's what they're doing. And they're working on polish and refinement. So what you see in the trailer is the final version of the game. Maybe that's the solution. Who knows? But time will tell. I looked at looked away from my chat for 1 minute. I look back and it's like Trump wouldn't play GTA 6. Like what? Speaking of earned media, that's actually in one of my my marketing classes in business school. They actually talked about Trump with regard to earned media specifically because one of the reasons Trump did so, or one of the theories why Trump did so well so early in like 2016 is because he was a behemoth of earned media. Like there's nobody like him. Like he just drives ratings no matter what. Whether you love him or hate him, you like watching videos about him. You like seeing it, the latest news about it on TV. And even if you don't like it, you still watch it. And that's why, like, I think the estimated free earned media in the 2016 campaign was like over $1.5 billion. Is crazy. Like, but that's earned media. I mean, earned media is a huge, crucial thing. It's also why AC Shadows, why that marketing team has been freaking out, because the earned media on AC Shadows is way lower than for like Valhalla, Odyssey, Origins. With those games, people were making lots of videos. People were talking about it a lot and willing to. With AC Shadows, a lot of creators rather, they don't want to deal with the blowback, with the like people that come into the chat and call them shills for not being totally negative about the game or even being positive about it. Like they just don't want to deal with it. So people aren't covering the game much. And that loses them a ton of earned media, which is like a major pillar of their marketing campaigns typically. Musk will hire boosters to play his GTA 6 character. Dude, wouldn't it be so freaking funny if like the third day the game's out, he's like got a level 500 multiplayer game character? That would be really freaking funny. That would be really funny. He's just like, yeah, I've just been playing a lot. It's like, bro, this is not playing a lot. This is like, lifed it. and I happen to know you've been at like, you know, rocket ship launches and stuff. Like, what are you doing? Oh man. Okay, let's talk about this real quick before I totally lose my voice. Okay. Do 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 do. Okay. You ready? You ready? This is gonna be fun. Don't you love talking about finances and stuff? It's a good time. It's a good time. Okay. You ready? Here we go. News alert. So this will surprise nobody. There's a lot of people who don't know much of anything about finance that are trying to twist something they don't understand into being evidence supporting their position. What I mean is that there's a certain group of people that have committed themselves to the idea that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has to be a financial failure. It has to flop, right? There's people that just cannot entertain the idea that maybe a game has stuff they don't like in it, and it could also be financially successful. This mostly goes back to the fact that there's an option for a kiss between Henry and another male character, and therefore the game is woke and garbage, and it must flop, because when you go woke, you go broke. Even though it's an RPG and it's like you control the buttons you press, it's up to you to do it. Like, whatever. Therefore, the game has to fail. I'm not saying you have to play that quest line or do that. I'm not saying you have to even love it. That, who cares? Whatever. I think it's silly to like dismiss a game entirely because of something that you don't like. A little pieces in there, but there's these people that think that it has to be a flop as a result. It has to be a disaster, and they've started pointing to this chart as evidence of their position. Now, what I find funny about this is because it's like they can't read. Because if you read these articles that they've been screenshotting and sharing without reading, you'll realize it actually says like the opposite of what they've been trying to push, which is really funny. It's always funny when people share something as evidence of their position that ends up being the opposite. But what is this? Because this looks scary. Embracer Group is the parent company that owns the company that is publishing KCD2. It's kind of all over the place, but that's kind of how you can think about it. They are a Swedish video game giant, owner of studios such as Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, Ghost Ship, Flying Wild Hog, Warhorse Studios. I should clarify because I think I mixed this up. They own, I don't actually know if they own PlayOn. Let me double check if they own PlayOn. I believe they do, but I don't want to misspeak. Yeah, they are owned by PlayOn. So to be clear, or PlayOn owns them. They own PlayOn. I can't talk. So, thank you, Dan the Cosmic Cat. Thank you. That's funny. So, let me. I have this pulled up here. Okay. That tab here. Okay. So, let me back up. Are you all right? I exercised today, so my asthma is flaring up, and I can't take another hit of my inhaler for like 20 minutes. So I'm just fighting for my life until I get it. Okay. Quick recap. News segment. There's a group of people that have sworn the Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has got to be a financial failure, right? It's got to be. It has things I don't like in it. Therefore, it's bad. And they're pointing to this. I've seen this article screenshotted and shared on platforms like X as evidence of KCD2 being such a disaster. It's causing the stock to plummet. The stock of their parent company, Embracer Group, it's plunged 44%. That's worse than EA's stock plunged after Veilguard and FC25 didn't do that great. That's a disaster. How is nobody talking about this? It's because if you can read, that's not actually what's going on here. And I'm going to show you what I mean. Because often charts and these things can be deceptive, which is why you have to dig a little deeper. Because you do look at this and it's like, wow, down 35.82%. That sounds horrifying. Oh my God, right around the time that KCD2 is launching too. And this is like their one big game that's happening right now. So it's got to be connected. Well, it's not. It's not actually. In fact, this story actually is indicative of the opposite. It actually is sort of a good sign for the financial performance of the game, which I'll show you. But quick thing to understand, Embracer Group is a massive conglomerate. So they're the Swedish company that owns Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, Ghost Ship Games, Flying Wild Hog, Warhorse. They own a bunch of other stuff. They're the company that was going to get that, like, I think it was $2 billion investment from the Saudi Arabian investment fund, but that fell through. So they had acquired all these extra studios and then they closed them all because they basically spent the money before they had it. Greenlit a bunch of stuff before they actually had the money. It was literally Michael Scott in the office when he gets the bonus check and goes to Burlington Coat Factory, buys the coat, puts it on his credit card, but he didn't have the money yet. So he's just in trouble. It's literally that, but on the scale of $2 billion. But as you can see, the chart looks scary. And the reason I need you to understand the structure is because Embracer owns a lot of stuff, and it's not just gaming studios. They also own publishers. PlayOn is a publisher that they own that published KCD2. And if you look at this chart, initially you're like, oh God, what happened? This is a disaster. A disaster. Well, it's not. And this is actually something that you can find out if you look at the trading in the Class B shares of Asmodee on NASDAQ Stockholm is expected to commence on 7 February 25. This disclosure from their investment relations portal. But basically what happened is that there is a company called Asmodee, which is an entertainment leader specializing in tabletop games, committed to bringing people together through great games and amazing stories. Thanks to its global and passionate workforce of 2,200 people, players around the world enjoy one of the largest tabletop IP categories with Catan, Ticket to Ride, Dobble Spot It, Exploding Kittens, and hundreds more. So they're the company that makes all of those tabletop games. Catan, that's kind of cool. I didn't actually know that this was the specific company behind Catan and Ticket to Ride. Both fun games. But basically what's happened is that there's been a split between how the companies are traded. So it used to be that Embracer included Asmodee in their stock, and now it's not. That's it. Okay. It's like, to put it really, really simple. Somebody says something, they're confused. To put it really simple, it's like if I said, okay, the Todd Howard candle and my Gamers Nexus, whatever this is, coaster. These two things are going to be traded under one stock, and I value that at $10. Candle's worth $5. This is worth $5. That's how they've been trading for years. Asmodee and Embracer is the candle. What just happened is they decided to separate them. And so this is still worth what it was. This is worth what it was. But now this is only trading for $5 because it doesn't include this when it did before, because they cut it out and it's being treated as its own thing. That's all that's happened. Okay. Literally a nothing burger, a nothing story. I mean, it's just a reworking of it. It would be like looking at a stock split. You know, like what happens a lot is that a stock will balloon up to a really high price point, maybe like $1,000 a share or something. And when that happens, what you see is volume of trades go down because not many people can afford to buy individual stocks, and not all brokerages allow for fractional shares. So what happens is a stock split where they will take the $1,000 stock and they'll break it into 5 shares. So if you owned 1 share at 1,000, they break it into 5 shares. You have 5 shares worth 200 apiece. You still, like, it's still worth the same amount, but it's just been broken up. And what you're seeing people do with these articles is basically misunderstanding what's going on and trying to conclude that because now one share is worth 200 instead of 1,000, therefore it's plummeted in value. Or because the company split how it was being traded, therefore like the company is not worth anywhere near as much, or something's changed. Or specifically in this case, they're trying to claim that KCD2's financial performance has been so bad that it caused this drop, which is just flatly false. And as you can see, Daniel Vavra, the game director actually on KCD2, said the reason Embracer share price dropped was that the company split in two and shareholders got Asmodee shares in addition to Embracer shares. In fact, the total value of the shares is up nearly 14% since the release of KCD2. Pretty straightforward. Okay, so this is why I always encourage it. It's like the old Mark Twain saying, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. And in this case, if you look at just this chart, you would think, if you didn't dig into it at all, that something horrible had happened. That, oh, this is right around the time when Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was launching. February 4th. Oh, God. When it's not actually even close to reality. Okay. In fact, the stock price has actually performed even better since the game's release because investors are pleased with it. So I just encourage you, if you see somebody trying to point to something financial related, my voice is going out, I'm sorry. If you see somebody on X or whatever talking about finance stuff and it seems to paint a very stark picture and you don't really hear many other people talking about it, look at it with a skeptical eye, bring it up in chat on stream. I can take a look at it and we can talk about it. But I mean, I do find this type of thing really funny because this is like ultimate bait for someone that doesn't actually want to read and understand, and they're just looking for confirmation of what they've decided is true, which is always very, very funny. Okay, so if you see any like rage baiters or people freaking out over this, trying to say that this is proof that KCD2 is a flop, you can link them this stream clip and maybe they will learn something. There you go. Bada bing, bada boom. Ryan, Luke, I studied economics and finance at undergrad and also love games. Good, my friend. I'm glad to have another finance bro. Another finance bro in the chat. I will say, I mean, TikTok bro, it's a very cringe term, but there are some mad cringe videos and clips and stuff with some of the actual finance bros. Like this guy. I think we looked at this on stream.
Where I bought it. Fuck, bro. You can't even make this shit up. Just take a lucky guess where I bought it. Just take a lucky guess. I'm thinking that this shit about to go to the fucking moon.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I'm missing out on some shit.
Mm-hmm.
How is this even possible? How can you even do this to a chart? How is this even possible?
Hopefully it wasn't too much money. It's relatively easy to get back $100 or $200 that you put on something like this, trying to gamble it. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people that put a lot more than just $100 in, you know. How's my Nvidia stock, by the way? I don't think I might own a share of Nvidia stock just so I have it in my portfolio so I can see where the price is tracking. But I own some Nvidia call options that have been doing quite well because I bought it right after everybody freaked out about the that Chinese DeepSeek, I think it was. So I bought a bunch of Tesla calls for January of next year, right as everything plummeted. So I was like, you guys are freaking out. And thank you for becoming a member, my friend. Thank you. And it's, you know, they've done very well. I think I'm up like 24% or something on just those calls. So Like to put it in perspective, 10% return annually for an entire year is considered above average. I just have to not lose money elsewhere. But yeah, if you get greedy when everyone else is freaking out and panicking, you can make some easy money. I'll tell you what. Tell you what, easy money if you keep a level head. Let's see. Where was I? Drinner D, thank you for the 5. Super pumped for Split Fiction and frankly shocked that it's only about $60. Yeah, I'm also very excited for that. I'm also very, very excited for that. I am buckled up and ready to go. I think we've tried to get a hold of him. I don't know, after everything I've been very negative about Veilguard, so I would be surprised if they, because EA is publishing that, so I'd be surprised if they all of a sudden got friendly, but I would love it if they gave us like a review code. That'd be super cool, because I'm sure it's gonna be great. Nai-Recon Jedi, thank you for the 10, very generous, and for becoming a member, my friend. Thank you. Will games after GTA 6 be affected by their pricing plans? For example, a new Batman game at 100, or will they understand that GTA 6 is unique and not many games can price their games at GTA prices? 1000%, bajillion percent, whatever the percentage is. If GTA releases the base version at 100 or 80 or 90, 1000% other big companies follow suit. That'll be the new normal. Just like everybody's kind of gotten used to $70, they're just going to try again. I don't personally think that's what they're going to do. My theory has been for a long time that they're going to do 70 just like normal, but I think they're going to do a really extensive early access, like a 7-day early access or something. And that's going to be only available to the $120 version. And they're going to basically sell like millions and millions and millions of copies at 120 a piece, even though technically they're still offering the base price of 70. That's what I think. But Take-Two Interactive were also the same guys that started the $70 trend with an NBA game. So they've pushed it before. So I wouldn't put it past them, but they, if they raise the standard and the standard version is 80 or 90 or 100, bajillion percent. You'll see EA do it with FC games. You'll see Ubisoft looking at doing it. Probably not immediately. I think Ubisoft would actually try to go a little bit lower, like maybe the $70 price point. But that's the thing, is once that's the new standard, 70 feels like you're getting a deal. Even though right now that's premium. That's top of the line AAA game. But once the standard's raised to 80, 90, 100, all of a sudden 70 feels like you're getting a discount. And that's exactly why they do it. It's asking for a crash if they go beyond 70. Yeah, in the AAA space, for sure. I think at that point, if they start doing 100 and every AAA game is 100 at launch, I think you're going to see people being super selective. And you're going to have a lot of these games that people are like, or those 7 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10 type AAA games, those will just not sell. People just wait for sales. And that's going to be the real damning thing. When prices are lower, people are more willing to take a risk on a fine game. But once the prices rise, people are just not going to take the risk. They're like, no, I'm only going to buy it at full price if I love it, if I know I'm going to love it, you know? Piracy will go up. Yeah, I mean, I think you'll see them in turn also double down on even more aggressive DRM stuff. Like, I think they'll go crazy. But if anybody is going to try it, it's Take-Two. Take-Two's not your friends. Take-Two, like, they're a big corporation, you know? They're doing what they need to do to make money. And if any game could justify a higher price point, it's probably GTA 6. So you better believe they're thinking about it. You better believe it. Dan, the Cosmic Cat, thank you for becoming a member, my friend. Fabrice, thank you for the 5. Luke, have you tried 1000X Resist? Looks like a basic anime game, but it really isn't. Also, it's not that much of a game. Not sure how my pitch went. Have you tried this game? It looks like a basic anime game, but it's not. And it's also not much of a game. You know what? It's one of the more interesting elevator pitches for a game I've heard. So there's that. I'll pull it up in another tab. I'll look at it when we hop off stream. Thank you for the recommendation. It's also not much of a game. It's got great reviews, looks like. Yeah, it's like 5 stars, 2,500 reviews. Crazy. Yeah, I'll check that out. Thank you. Yeah, 50% off sale will still be at $50. Exactly. You start to see why they love the idea of the $100 price tag, man. They love that idea. They're like, oh God, even on discount, we're still making premium money. They love that. They love it. Nathan, thank you for the 5. Fair game $sign is about to charge me rent if GTA 6 ups game prices. Dude, in that AI song we did, hold on, where's Suno? In that AI song we did, there's actually a line pretty proud of. Where is it? Was it?
There's a heist in the making. A rat race, so just let it go.
Yeah, this chorus.
Build this high. A castle of servers crumbles.
Wait for it.
Stealing from the rich. Oh, what a thrill to give to the richer and foot the bill.
Stealing from the rich, oh what a thrill to give to the richer and foot the bill. It's like, there really is fair game $sign. It's like a game built on you stealing from the rich, and that's supposed to be like thrilling and fun. But you're just giving money to a multi-billion-dollar corporation, the rich people, and then you're footing the bill for it. So they're selling you a game themed around doing the literal opposite of what you're actually doing, which is what makes it so ironically hilarious. Oh, anyway. Mr. Steele Kill, thank you for the 2. I missed 60 and 65, man. Dude. I looked back and I found a clip of people freaking out when games raised to $60. People were losing their minds. Inflation's a bitch. Don't get me wrong. I mean, inflation complicates things. That's why like the price raise to 70 was meant to address inflationary concerns, and it's only gotten worse over the last few years. So now technically, I mean, we can even do it. Can somebody Google when game prices went to 60 for the first time? While I pull this up. Was it like 2005 or something like that? I think it was like 2005. Had to be around 2006. Yeah, it looks like around 2006. The standard AAA game started releasing around 2006 at $60. 2005, 2006. So we'll do January of 2006, which in today's buying power would be worth around $95. So to buy a AAA game in 2006 felt the same as if you bought something for $95 today. Now, the thing that, of course, people bring up, which is very, very fair, is, well, income and like salaries and hourly wages and stuff haven't risen anywhere near that much, which I think is absolutely true. The other side of this, which I think is more crucial, is that like these games are selling to millions of people more. Granted, their budgets have also increased, but also like the video game industry is way bigger in 2025 compared to 2006. Okay, so you needed to sell a lot more copies in 2006, or let me restate that. In 2006, yes, purchasing wise, it was like $95 a copy if you were to use today's money, but the budgets were tighter and the community was smaller, so you were selling less copies. In 2025, you're selling 10 times the copies you would have sold in 2006. And granted, you're selling it for a discount. I mean, if we do, can I do it in reverse? No. So what would be the equivalent of $70 today? 40, so maybe 40, 43, 44. So like $44 in 2006. That's effectively like what they would have to sell at to be equivalent to today. But if you were selling 5 times the total number of units, like you'd still be doing just fine, even with the discount. So I understand that, the basic argument that, hey, with inflationary pressures and stuff, $60 in 2006 was equivalent in buying power to like $95, $96 today. So therefore we should raise prices to that point to be consistent. And it's like, okay, I can understand why a multinational corporation would want to do that, but there's these other factors as well. And more than anything, I think it's just that budgets have gotten out of control. And there's other things, exactly like Shepard says, it's also a mostly digital market. So expenses for distributing copies and physical copies have plummeted because most copies are sold digitally now. Distribution and marketing in general is way more streamlined. It's just, I don't buy the argument that like the industry needs to be at $100 a unit to all of a sudden magically be profitable. Like, I think more of what it is wasting $400 million on live service games that nobody ever asked for or wanted or would ever want. That's the problem. They're complaining everything's so expensive now. Yeah, because you're subsidizing so much waste. You can see other companies that are putting out really solid stuff that ends up being profitable very quickly because they don't waste time and money on stupid crap. It's not that complicated. Bring Blockbuster back. Dude, Blockbuster and Redbox. I used to rent games through Redbox to try them out. Like high school era. I still see Redboxes. I think there's one at a gas station near me. I think so. I don't know. It's like a more of a boomer thing, I guess, at this point to rent a DVD, I do remember when we were growing up, we lived in Minnesota for a year and there was a movie rental store, like a mom and pop shop kind of thing. It wasn't Blockbuster or anything. And we'd go there to rent movies every Friday night because we'd get Little Caesars Pizza that was also next door, and then we'd get a movie. But when you went into the movie theater store or the movie rental store, there was a claw machine kind of thing with the scoop to get candy out of. And it was one of those machines that guaranteed a win. Put your quarter in, you will get candy. And if it scoops and doesn't grab anything, you get to go again. So I remember like finding a quarter and saving it. Because when movie night came, I was going to go and I was going to get my candy. It wasn't much. It was like 3-4 pieces. But as a kid, it was like, I found the hack for life. Spend a quarter and I will definitely get candy. Why wouldn't you do that? I have to, Oh, man. Yeah, it used to be an experience picking DVDs and games from a store. Yeah, the one you want is all rented out. There's no more copies left. So you could put your name on the list to get it reserved. But if it was reserved, they would call you when it was ready and it came back in. And then you had to be there within like an hour or something. Otherwise, they'd give it away to the next person. It was a whole thing. Redbox went bankrupt and didn't want to spend the money to collect kiosks so you can get movies in them for free. Really? Dude, I had no idea. Yeah. They were a company that rented and sold movies and TV shows on on DVD, Blu-ray, 4K UHD. Redbox also offered streaming services and a mobile app. They had a mobile app, really? Yeah, they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in June of 2024. Their case was converted to liquidation in July. Their online streaming service mobile app stopped working in July. They're removing the kiosks. Some people have been seen taking movies from kiosks for free. Dude, I had no idea. Yeah, the one near us definitely is still there. So I'll have to go try it. The company doesn't exist anymore, but the kiosk still does. That's crazy. Who knew? Who knew? Huh. Yeah, people will pay any price if the game is really fun and good and not cheap agenda propaganda. I mean, I think it's just people want good games. That's the thing. People want good games. And if you make a good game, they'll buy it and support you. But I think the thing is, because I've heard a lot of people, I've pointed it out on TikTok, you go and you say the same thing. Are they going to price it at 100, GTA 6 at 100? And everybody on TikTok is like, yeah, they should. I'd buy it. I've got money. I'm rich. Everybody's trying to flex on each other through anonymous comments on TikTok. But like on TikTok, it's very, yeah, absolutely. They should definitely price it that much. It was an expensive game to make. You go on YouTube, nobody says that. Everybody's like, no, are you insane? But it's because I think the TikTok crowd is much younger and they're not perhaps appreciating the externalities of that decision, which would be that, yeah, GTA 6 would be at $100, which I think all of us would agree. Like if any game could justify $100 price point with how much money they've spent on it and stuff, it's probably GTA 6. That's going to be the most expensive game ever made by the time it's done. So sure. The problem are the externalities. The problem's the other stuff that comes along with that decision, which is that everybody else then prices at that same price point because it's normalized. And then the industry as a whole, I think, suffers. I don't think you can price every AAA game at 100 and expect the industry to stay the same as it is today. On the consumer side, to be clear. I think the corporate side will be very jubilant, but I think that you're going to see if they did that and then you saw all these multi-platform games and you know, PlayStation starts to try and go to $100, like you'll see Game Pass skyrocket in value. Xbox could justify raising the price of Game Pass by $5 a month, significant increase, but just because they know that, like, yeah, 20% increase still feels a hell of a lot better than paying $100 for a game. You know, that's why all of these companies are like begging Take-Two to do it. They all would love it. Because once that first domino falls, they all start to fall. And then you can't blame the other dominoes because you're like, hey, well, the one back there fell before me. It's not my fault. I'm just following the market, you know? Yeah. Oh, I agree. They can't even deliver a finished product at 70. I totally agree. That's why I think if they move to 100, even though everybody will buy it, I think it would be terrible for the industry. Because then again, it would just, I mean, it's been said before, but yeah, it would just be, yeah, it'd be a disaster. Yeah, I just, we're going to see. That might be part of the reason why they're taking their time to set up like store pages. Because they're just trying to finalize it before doubling down on it. So, yeah. Where was I? Loxy, don't you feel naked? Where's your watch? I wore, because we just worked out, I wore my like digital ultra whatever watch. And so if I wear it during the stream, it's like vibrating and buzzing whenever a notification happens and it distracts me. So I take it off. You know, I just take it off. But yeah, I do feel a little naked without a watch on. I like my watches. like my watches. Hey Luke, greetings from Czech Republic. I'm so happy you enjoyed Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and I have wonderful news. In a recent interview, Daniel Vavra said the game cost roughly $42 million and it's already profitable. Jesus, dude. But didn't you hear? It has to be a flop. Didn't you hear? Dude, that's insane. Good for them. If it actually cost $42 million to make, that's crazy. It's the one thing where, like, if you can keep scope in check, you have a smaller team that's paid a reasonable salary and the cost of living where they're at is not insane, you can turn games around that are pretty profitable. The problem is, like, these huge studios that are based in, like, San Francisco. San Francisco is so expensive that, like, the median salary is like $120,000. And those people are not living like kings. I mean, that's not $120,000 in the middle of Kansas. That's $120,000 where your rent is $3,500 a month. You know, like, it's crazy expensive to live there. And so all of their expenses skyrocket because they have all of these studios based in these really expensive places. And you see it all over the place, where it's studios based in, like, Redwood, California, based in San Francisco. Redwood's right outside San Fran, but anyway. Montreal, Quebec, Paris, like, these studios are all kind of huddled up in these centers that just happen to be extremely expensive. You know, yeah, Wukong was 80 million. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's also like some studios there's a different standard across different companies to work at in terms of, like, financial support. And it's one thing I've pointed out that often upsets people who have not heard it before. Let's see. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. People often think that these studios are all kind of the same across the board, that, like, oh, I'm sure Ubisoft pays the same as EA, pays the same as a lot of Xbox studios, pay the same as FromSoft or Capcom, whatever. It's not actually true. Even if you're making games that people consider to be industry leading masterpieces that are wildly financially successful, does not necessarily mean that they're going to be paid as such. The example I've pointed to is From Software versus Ubisoft. Ubisoft actually apparently pays pretty well. There's some cases where they don't, or where they freeze raises and stuff when they're in financial straits. But from a variety of people I've spoken to, they're pretty happy with their pay at Ubisoft. EA also apparently pays quite well, and has a bunch of benefits and all sorts of stuff. From Software, this is a story from 2022, November, so almost 2023, but November of 2022, okay, in response to Elden Ring's success, okay. Salary Explorer reports the monthly average salary in Japanese game development ranges from $1,675 to $5,300 a month, okay. In recent roles advertised at From Software, all of them start at $1,600 a month. Which, to be clear, monthly rent in Tokyo, where they're based, averages around $1,400 or $1,500 for a single bed apartment, while the cost of living hovers around $1,008. In which case, they would need to live with, like, multiple roommates to exist. Now, they have received raises. So as you can see, with the immediate success of Elden Ring, publisher Bandai Namco announced in February that it would be raising salaries by an average of $362 a month for all employees. Moreover, the base salary would increase from the previous $1,681 to $2,101. So they increased the base salaries to about $2,100 a month. So if you were living in a single bedroom apartment, with the cost of living in Tokyo, you still would be short by like $400 a month, effectively. So you'd still need to live with, like, roommates or have a side gig or something, working full time at one of the most successful and tremendous game developers on the planet. Now they did do another further raise recently. They raised it by like 11%, I think. So it went up by another like $250 or something, which gets you close to breaking even. But bear in mind, this was also in 2022 and inflation has only gotten more insane. So anytime people are like, well, From Software was able to be profitable, it's like, yeah, they also were paying their employees like very low. Even, yeah, people say the cost of living. Cost of living in Tokyo is not like, it's not like living in you know, the middle of nowhere in the Midwest where rent is $150. Like I had family that was living up in Wyoming like a year ago and their rents were like $350. So Tokyo's not that. Okay, I can guarantee you. And I'm sure in Montreal, I'm sure in Paris, in San Francisco, cost of living is extremely expensive. And at least from the anecdotal examples that I've seen of people I've spoken to that work at EA, that work at Ubisoft, they do make enough to function and live. I mean, they're not living in like, you know, houses. Most of them are in apartments and stuff like that, unless they're senior designers who have been there a long time. But I think that this is something to remember, is that if your studio is based in an expensive place and you have to pay your employees $100 and something thousand a year each, like you're going to see skyrocketing development costs when you're looking at other games that are also being sold for $60, $70, but are produced by teams that are making like an actual fifth of that amount per year. You know, it's just different. It's just different. I'm in no way an expert, but in my understanding from YouTube and the likes is that Japan tends to pay pretty terribly for anything but the higher echelons of companies. That's my understanding as well, is that there's not really a super sizable middle class. Like the middle and low class kind of blends together in a lot of those big cities in the East. But I mean, again, it goes to show you that most of this has to do with budgeting and that type of thing. But it's also about talent. It's about where are the devs, you know? And the devs that are willing to make From Software are, of course, in a relatively expensive place, but they're willing to work for cheaper, whereas the devs that might be in San Fran are not going to be working for that little. And so you're kind of stuck. But this is also why the success of Black Myth Wukong, the success and the hype around games like Crimson Desert, that's why those games of Pal World, those excite investors so much, because you can pay people a lot less in those countries to make games that are seemingly just as successful, if not more. So if they can buy up studios or invest in studios in China or Japan or Korea, they can make a whole hell of a lot more money than if they're trying to invest in studios that are based in San Francisco or New York City or London or something. Like, they'll make a lot more money that way. So, anyway. Yeah. In Paris, you pay a lot and get free rodents and vermin with it. Yeah, I was speaking to somebody who lives in France relatively recently, and I just was poking their brain, because it was like, in America, we have like two stereotypes of Paris. One is like the romanticized Ratatouille kind of romanticization. The other sort of stereotype is that it's way dirtier and grosser than you would think. And this person I was talking to was like, it's probably dirtier. It's closer to the latter than the former. I was like, yeah, I would figure. I've talked to some people who have visited there on like vacations and stuff, and they've always been like, it's not what you think it is. In Europe, we consider Paris a trash can. I was in Paris last year. It was really nice, but they had cleaned up due to the Olympics. Oh, I'm sure that helps. Yeah. It's like San Francisco. There's that story. San Fran. So there's this big policy of there was this policy and push in San Fran where they said that it was what was the exact word they used? It was something like it was not compassionate to like lock up or clear out homeless camps and stuff like that. It was not compassionate. So instead you had to leave it be and support them and like bring food trucks by that are paid for by the city and stuff like that. But what this led to was such an overflow of refuse that there was an app developed that literally marked all the places where human feces could be found on sidewalks. So you could, in theory, avoid those when you went on your walks to work or home. But it very quickly became apparent that it was so disgusting that you basically couldn't go anywhere at all. Yeah. San Francisco human waste reportings. A good bit. But what's funny is they had, and this is a problem across California. I mean, to be clear, it's also a problem in LA. But whenever they've had, visits from dignitaries of other countries, it all of a sudden magically gets cleaned up. So it's like, you guys know how to do it. You just are not doing it. Like, what are you doing? There's a story, I think it was LA, where there were huge homeless encampments and stuff, and they left them be. But then Xi Jinping, the head of, China, he, or prime minister, whatever his title is, he came over and they magically cleaned up all the streets because this foreign dignitary was coming and they wanted to look good and successful for him. Was it San Fran? It might've been San Fran because they magically cleaned up all the poop, all the homeless encampments, everything. But only when this foreign leader was coming. And it was like, wait, what, like, so you guys can clean it up. You just are like, you're just not. What are we doing? Yeah, like magic. Yeah. It was San Fran. Okay. It was San Fran. Limbrick, thank you. Or Ilmbrick. Thank you for subbing with Prime, my friend. Thank you. That's wonderful. Yeah, it was like magic. Problem solved, man. Problem solved. Okay, so guys, I was going to try to go through another couple topics and segments and stuff, but I am losing my voice. It's just going. So I think I'm going to call it there. You guys are fantastic. Thank you for an awesome week of streaming. Hopefully next week I can come to you and we can get the ball rolling on the new Discord server and all of that stuff. It's going to be awesome. I love you all. Just say yeah. Luke, you're so cool. I hope you're having a good day. I am. And I hope you're having a good day too, my friend. I can't talk. This is why you don't work out, guys. It fries your brain. Much love, everybody. You guys are fantastic. I will see you soon on Monday, probably. I might have another video up before then. I'm not sure. Until then, hugs and kisses. Bye-bye. Wasn't that anticlimactic? I was trying to think of something funny to say. I couldn't think of it. Anyway, bye.